Mental health and wellness is so important in the world of gaming.
Going to a mental health professional when you're feeling not your best, I can't think of anything better to do.
It is okay to seek for help. You're not weak because you go see a therapist.
Que no pasa nada por pedir ayuda y que los profesionales para algo están.
Yo promuevo.
I promote and practice positive mental health.
time again. Welcome back to the Apex Legends Global Series Pro League. My name is Kate, and helping me pilot this dropship, we've got Tom, T-Square Taylor, and Glitter Explosion. Thank you both for being here, of course. And Tom, earlier today we saw EMEA bring some incredible clutch plays, but as we all know, North America is a whole other ballgame.
It really is, and these teams are going to be fighting and clawing for every single point, just like we saw previously. And you got to feel for Alliance in the EMEA region, where they came through and had what Hackies calls the most disappointing 4th place ever. I can't wait to see what's going to happen as these teams continue to fight for their playoff spots.
Absolutely. And Glitter, I know we've had some great times this morning, obviously, as Tom mentioned. And today, is there any highlights, real quick headlines for you before we go into what we saw last time these teams met?
You know, for highlights, I'm thinking I want to see some repeat performances here. Are we talking about for NA? Because I want to see some of these squads from the last play that we saw continuing their momentum. Okay, there's a couple teams that I'm thinking of that we'll talk about in a little bit that did very, very well for themselves last time we saw everyone, and I want to see if they can do the same here today.
Well, I love that segue. You just wrote it for me, Glitter. Let's take a look at some of those key highlights from the last time we saw North America in the ALGS lobby.
This goes down. Sleepy Panda doing so well, and now the push comes in as it looks like Absolute Monarchy might be able to come out of this alive, but no.
Watch the portal. Can you get gas?
They're getting pushed. They're getting pushed. Keep anchoring them. They're getting pushed.
Get gas on portal.
Ticking on gas. Wrapping.
One knock.
For Complexity, it's a case of just making sure they make no mistakes, and one of those mistakes, 8 missing shots, and that's what Monsoon is doing as Complexity will close out game 1 as your champions.
Land it on me. On me. Bubbling. Might want to rest, Shiny? Res. What's that?
The dome is the only thing stopping Suno from taking that shot. Now that it's gone down, he gets the crack. 123. 3 more shots left in the Kraber.
He went above us. Okay, I'm bubbling on the right side. 120. Give me 120. Okay. Above us. He's dropping in our bubble. Give me that crack. Keep going. Crack 2. Nice. You got second. Give me low. Am I knock? No.
I don't know if they meant to drop here, but it seems to have worked out. Wicked picks up 1. He's got the Mastiff in hand as well. They should be in a great position to close this out. Scissors will pick up 1. Phony moves in. 2 players remaining. The bubble goes down. It's just a bubble fight.
Three, 2, 1, shoot. Nice. Good job. I'm ulting.
Reps has gone down here. It's up to Snackdown. He gets the down, and Hal's in trouble too. They do find 2, but Snackdown doesn't get away in time. It's a third party moving in. It's Charlotte Phoenix.
They have to retreat just a little bit to get their health back, and they're meanwhile taking out Scissors.
Those bubble too in this close range fight. This is so intense in this situation. What can you even do right here? Complexity always on top of the word rotations, and they're still claiming names. Look at the way they're playing this dome. Just one after the other, and finishing things up with the melee.
Cloud9, they want to take down W here. They've got 1 knock and they want more, but maybe W can hold, which they will. Senior Service have everything here.
They have everything. If they throw this one away, they won't ever want to watch this game again. They move in. All they had to do was wait for them to escape from that door. However, now it's going to be evened up, and Noko manages to close out the game.
Note that there is a squad that's had their sights on them for a while, but they're fighting, so this is the opportunity for them to move in. Sentinels, not too sure if they know who's right underneath them.
Absolute carnage right now for Complexity. They are not missing. Easy peasy for them. Hal is still alive. He snuck away the high ground. He took out 1. Hal's left in the 1v2.
Oh my gosh, and he's Wraith too at the same time. He can just delay the inevitable. He can also just press Q. What is going on? I cannot believe what I'm seeing. This is the final game, and this is how you end it?
Genius finish from Hal. He's going to Wraith portal his way. It's going to be a heal off to finish. Hal enters the portal. The other team does not have a Wraith, and TSM wins. TSM wins. Are you kidding me?
Well, if there's one thing those highlights prove, it's that NA is on fire right now. So let's talk a little bit about how on fire, and for that, we're going to take a look at our overall leaderboards here. Tom, as we see these North American leaderboards, a reminder that we've got some green light, red light, yellow light going on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And one thing's for sure is the teams in the green feeling really good about the situation, but there are some amazing teams on this right-hand side that are trying to make their way in. Just imagine TSM, 13th place, not making the playoffs. That's absolutely unheard of. Team Liquid, what? How are they not in there yet either? That's just because how brutal North America is, how well oiled these teams are, I guess, in terms of the way that they perform, and it's been tough for these first 3 rounds.
Absolutely, Glitter. As we take a look at, these are the teams here in the red and the yellow, as Tom mentioned, that, you know, we've got some that are on bubbles, and we got some that really need to go for that redemption run right now.
Yeah, all those teams that are in the red, 33rd through 40th, those are the ones that are potentially facing relegation right now. So they need to do whatever they can to get themselves up out of the red and into the yellow for a little bit safer spot, because, you know, at the end of all this, they don't want to have to be fighting for their chance to get back into ALGS, right? So they're going to have a lot of pressure on their shoulders every single round.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a look at the pressure, and by that I mean what the lobby looks like today. And here we go. We got Group B versus C, because of course we are in the double portion of the double round robin format, a phrase I like to say over and over again because it makes me giggle. But it is also a very, very scary lobby here, Tom, which is another phrase I like to continually talk because it's yours.
And you're going to see there are 19 teams in this lobby. The bottom left, there is 1 team missing. We're going to touch base on who that team exactly is, and it's right there. It's Bench Warmers. Madness. He's as inactive as my gym schedule right now. Noct coming through, and justice for Noct has been a thing for quite some time. Rambo, he's going to go on over to the Neanderthals. We'll see how these players are going and adapt, and maybe Madness is going to find his way onto another team. We're not quite sure yet.
Absolutely. And this, as we look at our North American roster changes all up, remember today is B versus C Sunday, though. Come back and join us on Sunday. Well, you'll be able to see these 4 different teams. Their roster shuffles are impressive, and they'll be showcased live on our screen. And of course, here we have even more. Look at all them apples. Oh, I guess this is coming for Sunday here. Absolute Monarchy and Neanderthals. There's Rambo, as you saw him before. My goodness, this is going to be Glitter. It's that time of year again. Time for a good roster shuffle to really create some spicy lobbies.
Yeah, I mean, our teams had a little bit of a break since the last time that we played, and a lot of them used the time to make some pretty big shakeups, to say the least. So we'll see if any of those switches end up paying off for those squads.
Changes indeed. But something that hasn't changed is our ability to give you both, our incredible analysts and casters, the opportunity to talk to us about which teams you have in your sights. And for that, we're going to start with our Lenovo teams to watch. Okay, it's the hardest question you have all day. Glitter, let's start us off. Who do you have in today's Lenovo teams to watch?
All right, we've got some really good teams this time around. We're going to be starting things off here with NRG. Now, we want to talk about NRG. Keep our eyes on NRG because right now they are obviously in a 3rd place overall position. But starting off the entire split, they had a really, really rough start, but then they managed to improve week over week. They were first in their last round of games, and so that's one of the squads that we're going to be keeping our eyes on, seeing if they can continue that momentum.
And Complexity is another team to watch out for. We saw in the highlights before this thing started how well they played previously. They definitely have what it takes in terms of the skill. In terms of the current meta, I can't wait to see what they're going to pull out. They may end up changing it up. Complexity is always trying to innovate things, but just such a highly entertaining team. I can't wait till we get into listening with Complexity because they make me laugh every single time.
Yeah, and then the last team that we are going to be keeping our eyes on is actually going to be Sentinels. Now, Sentinels is currently tied in the overall points with NRG, but they are 4th overall. However, last time these 2 groups went up, B versus C, Sentinels absolutely dominated. And I don't even know if that's descriptive enough of how strong of a team they were in this matchup. So we'll see how they do this time around.
Wow, that's fantastic. And you know what? 3 teams, 3 Lenovo teams to watch. So thanks so much for joining us there. Those have been your Lenovo top 3 teams to watch. Well, it's pretty clear here that North America is stacked. These lobbies are scary, and I cannot wait to get us into our, first and foremost, our game. But guess what? First things first. Oh, God, it's going to pain me, but I'm going to try it. Here we go, our talent predictions, folks.
We're so unique.
There seems to be a trend here.
I mean, Gaskin.
I mean, he's not here to talk
going
about
for it
but-
all here. Gaskin's going for it all here. You know what? I'm going to do the onset strategy. I'm going to pick 2 teams, okay? I'm going with energy and complexity. I'm going to, forge a message, send it on over to our production, say that I actually had complexity picked before this, or whatever team gets first place. We call it the onset strat.
Wow. Wow, shots fired. I love it, and I'm sure he will fire back as soon as he gets back here during our casting. But you know what? Casting means it's about time we head over to our game number 1, which means I'm going to take it off for a little bit. But I'll be back. It's over to Tom and Glitta. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kate. Yes, it is game number 1. It is getting close to being time. Hey, we saw some amazing games before in the EMEA region, Glitter. 6 games. I believe we had 6 different winners. Expect the same thing going forward with North America, unless Sentinels comes out and does what Dan Gaskin is expecting them to just dominate, slap, whatever you want to call it. They were just pushing people around, just like how the old Sentinels used to do. Keep in mind, these were the first Apex Predators ever. Whenever Ranked came out, Sentinels was the first team as a full squad to grind that out together, and they are just extremely talented when it comes to skirmishes. But hey, we're in a new season right now, and we may see some different changes. We saw some Bloodhounds in North America in the previous round. I don't know what's going to happen this time, Glitter. What are you excited for team composition-wise?
I'm going to be interested to see if we see this same pullback, that we saw in the EMEA region when it comes to Bloodhound. I think we only saw 1 all of earlier today. So we did see a little bit of Ash, not a lot, but we got, a tidbit here and there from some of our squads as well. We did see quite a few Valk, Gibby, and Caustics as well, trying out both the thick boys at the same time. So, I mean, maybe we'll get some similar options here for NA.
I think so too. I think that we're going to probably see some teams going back to that old composition, but we're not going to see Octanes, I don't think, with the nerfs. Are we going to see Watson with the buffs? I don't believe so. I think that a lot of teams are going to adapt what the EMEA region's actually doing. It seems to be kind of like fashion over here in America, where they just take the compositions and they start to run it. I believe that's where we started seeing the double big boy Valkyrie composition with Valkyrie, Gibby, and Caustic. Team Esports Arena has been running that phenomenally. We've seen other teams like TSM switch week after week. We've even seen Hal bust out Crypto, which was pretty unorthodox if we take a look at the overall points and scoring. And we saw Alliance tied for first earlier today, trying to get 12 points. They dropped all the way to 4th place and lost out on so many points, 5 points overall. That was a tough pill to swallow for them. And we have a lot of great teams still on the outside looking in. TSM and Liquid, the most notable on that right-hand side. CLG is on the verge of potentially being relegated too. And then we saw 100 Thieves, our champions from the previous season. They aren't even safe at all. They're right in between over in that yellow area, trying to not get relegated, but very far from making the playoffs. So a lot of ground has to be made up today, and every game is going to be extremely important, starting with the first one.
And on the flip side of that, we're talking about those teams that are in the yellow range for our current overall standings that we maybe not would have expected to be there. But we saw earlier today in EMEA, Rebel was in a similar situation, and they had a phenomenal day that just shot them up the leaderboard. So we can't count any of these teams out, because any of those squads can have one humongous play day and completely shake up the standings.
And what they did is the inside information that you talked about in terms of changing their composition, going and getting rid of Bloodhound, adapting the new meta, and trying to apply that. They did that in a perfect fashion, coming through with a ton of points today, jumping up on that leaderboard. I'm excited to see who's going to come out swinging today. You can see game number 1 is underway. The teams in the ship, you will see again 19 teams in this lobby compared to our typical 20. That's going to be fixed next week, hopefully. But Benchwarmers, they've disbanded. They are no longer a team. They were supposed to be playing here. Noct, Rambo, Madness. 2 of those players going on over to different teams. Madness still trying to find out exactly where he's going to go. And you love to see it. The slide down the mountain Crypto drone already. No one's going to scan any faster than this. You can see 2 squads in the vicinity, most likely still flying in the air as that dropship is still coming around. But hey, I heard you like beacons. I like beacons too. Looks like double U is going to take that one and get the scan for us. We'll find out if it's going to be another southern zone. We saw 6 southern zones previously. And hey, what do you know? It's a northern zone. Let's go.
I was worried that you were about to jinx it, but this is the first northern zone we've seen all day. So everyone that you see up in Skyhook, you know, is very, very happy right now. And this is going to make some of the rotations for our squads that are down there on the southeastern portion of the zone. It's going to get a little bit tricky because they're going to have a lot of teams to have to fight their way through. And, you know, them's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So this should be fun.
You can see complexity over there towards the epicenter side. They are owning 3 POIs. That's how terrified the rest of this lobby is. No one's landing over towards Climatizer. They're going to give that one on over to complexity as we take a look at Senpai and what they're doing over towards the Prowler and Trials area, picking up some loot. It's going to be Plagiaces, Casellos, and Senpai. You can see rocking the Ash here, so we see our first Ash composition, and this is what we're typically seeing. It's going to be Gibraltar, Valkyrie, high pick rate. That third player can really be a handful of different options. It could be Caustic, it could be Ash, Wraith. We've even seen a lot of Loba in the EMEA region, and Casellas, Progiaces, Senpai loving the situation, getting trials for free, and they're also going to like the zone pull here because it is going to go on over towards Skyhook. Not a lot of teams in the vicinity. This should be a lucky start for Unlucky.
You're right, that this is actually going to work out perfectly for them. They're going to be very well looted and be able to pick pretty much any position they want. You can see they've already started making their way over towards the Skyhook area, starting to kind of clear or at least scout out some of those buildings, see where is going to be good for them to hold. And honestly, they are going to be in a pretty scary spot right now with that Trials loot and nobody that they have to worry about right off of the bat. They can pretty much have their pick of the litter when it comes to spots to hold in Skyhook.
And that's so important because there's a handful of different spots where this thing can go and bounce around depending on where the zone is going to pull. Market's always a good spot, but it doesn't look like it's going to go on over here. That big top center area. Also, the buildings in the back are fairly safe as well. Getting that scope onto the longbow is going to prove very useful. Meanwhile, Complexity, I've always been curious to see how they're going to go and play this one. Yes, they could push in towards the zone. They know where this zone is going to be, or they could play this safe and try to gatekeep the teams behind them. And that seems to be the case right now. As you can see, Nock, the new addition to his squad, trying to work things out with Euris and the squad. Hill, he's the one that gets replaced. Hill was definitely vibing with that squad. Curious to see how they went around and made that decision. But Nock, definitely one of our strongest controller players that we have in North America. Complexity going for the Valkyrie redeploy here. I like this idea. Skyward dive, most likely into Skyhook. They aren't going to have their pick the litter, but they're going to be pretty darn close here, Glitter.
Yeah, we saw them for a second debating making a little bit of an aggressive push across onto the team that was making their way across the tracks. They decide to back off and use the skyward dive so that they can reposition themselves a little bit better. You see a couple tracers coming out as they land on top of the buildings, but they're going to be able to get inside and get safe. Teams have already started to, hold their positions here. So Complexity did at least make a smart move to get in there as quickly as they could.
A few end zones directly over here as Protectful is going to get a knock right there onto Zednim, and you can see why it's so important to get this position. Caustic is going to be able to hold this building very well. There's a lot of endings over towards that train station side, but here is a big fight. It's going down over towards the Skyhook side. I can't believe that teams are willing to skirmish this early with the amount of positioning that they actually have. It's SXG going down. Let's see if he's going to get a 3v1 over here. It's going to be Slurpee. The shots are looking good. The strafe's looking good. Baiting and switching with himself basically in that couch as he can, if he wins this, get the res, but Fearless is going to say no. Senior service with the third party from across the map. This is one of those priority positions that we're talking about, Glitter. Getting top center here is very useful. A lot of endings directly below here, endings over towards the train station, endings where the Complexity team is set up, and then in between the two, that fence area is a very popular spot. So a handful of different spots over here towards Skyhook that are going to be held down, and expect a lot less action than what we just saw. I am completely shocked that a team was willing to fight that early so far.
I was just going to say that. I was really surprised that already we're getting some action here in Skyhook. Apparently they wanted to fight for that position. Was it worth it? Did it really pay off? I don't think so. At least not in the eyes of the teams who, lost their players or the full squad. We see We see Senior Service, though, they have been pinging out a bunch of different teams. They know exactly where a lot of these squads are. They know where they're holding, and they have fantastic sightlines on everybody, being aware of all of those angles. So they're in a spot to really deal a lot of poke damage right now, which if they can be patient with it and land some of those, will at least just be setting themselves up well to kind of get their shields where they want them to be for when those mid to late game engagements start.
If we're wondering if we're going to see Bloodhound, well, yes, we do. It's going to be Voltic over here with the 30-30, such a solid weapon in this type of situation with the 3x. That bubble needs to go down in order for them to get some serious damage, but it's not going to happen. Actually, it is. It's going to be Voltic getting Protectful down. The problem is do you take this fight? Do you pop the Beast of the Hut? You have a scan coming up at any moment here. Also, something to keep in mind, that building where the knocks and the fights were happening is so highly contested because of the beacon that's on top of there, and that's where Renegades is. But the good thing here for Senior Service is they can just mimic and mirror this team. So if a scan comes through and all of a sudden that team starts to rotate, well, guess what? The zone's most likely going to pull somewhere. So they can just get secondary information and just trail them based on what the information is that they see.
Yeah, and we saw Voltic there holding off until he did get enough damage, then pops the Phoenix kit so he can fill up the purple shields. It was a nice little combo. And that's what I was talking about. That's the damage that they were hoping for. They're set up now in a really solid spot. They've got better shields. They've got hopefully enough loot. The only potential downside is, are they going to have to worry about, because you can see them sharing the meds here, are they going to have to worry about how many they have? Did they loot up enough before they grabbed that position, or is that something they're going to have to be a little bit conservative with? But we're going to be jumping off of them and now onto Rala Theory, as we're watching some of these teams having to make the long rotation around on their way into Skyhook. And this is what we were talking about. This is where things are going to start to get a little bit hairy for some of these squads.
The long and winding road is what this one is. They are going all the way around over towards the backhand side. They're going to try to approach Skyhook from a different type of area where it seems to be a little bit more safe. And when we have crypto, why not? Try to find a spot where you can go and try to survive, try to coexist. They're not going to be happy with the amount of teams that have already filled in towards these areas. Not many vacancies over here. Fortunately for them, it is just round number 1. And they do have some meds, so they can just big chill over here. They really need... It's going to be weird saying this, but McNucky Butt, he's going to need to come through and he's going to have to come through on that drone and gather some valuable information. Right now, it seems to be Wizizzy. He's going for the portal over towards the roof, and that building is going to be safe. Nice job by Rolla Theory with the rotate.
I see an enemy over there.
I can't take that name seriously, but we're checking in with Rolla Theory. They're making their rotations here, trying to grab a position, so let's actually listen in and see what their plan sounds like.
Marked my next location.
Isn't it? How far is it? Isn't it 200?
200. It's exactly 200, and I'm at 200.
But I'm gonna watch around though. You said there's people over by train or not?
Yeah, there's a team train. It's a team in the little
team middle
small
building, of course.
There's a team in this building, and then there's another team in Diner too. No,
that's nuts.
That's why.
Maybe we try to like walk up here. Maybe.
Here. Follow me.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Let's see how far we can get. It's that building right there, right?
Moving
Oh no, it's the
here.
next one up.
Follow me.
Oh, wait, this is one of those for you too.
We just gotta try and get in somewhere.
Let's get there for now. This building on the right. I don't think we can get to the left. I don't see.
Well, I don't. No shot. We're gonna get fried from the kids up top in the middle.
Yeah.
We ain't getting no freezy. No freezy rotate, bro.
I think we just take this building.
But
I feel like everyone's playing like fragment side too. I don't think there's that many teams in here.
Then we need to start moving into later.
There's a team up here, so we can try to go for this.
Did I see someone? I think
I saw someone up here.
Target spotted.
Alright, fuck it, I'm
Drone
moving.
that.
Drone here.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you can drone it too. Fuck it. I'll just go with you. Fuck it. I'm gonna just climb this bitch.
They're here. Oh, they're here for sure.
Fuck. Damn.
How do you want to do it? Oh, they're looking down right here.
Just get under.
I'm here. They're gonna EMP us. Well, I could EMP them. It's up to you.
EMP and check Diner.
EMP?
Or fucking drone. Check Diner.
I have TP in like 5, so we can just commit to it.
That's what I'm saying. We just need to see if anyone's there.
Is anyone in there?
Not that I don't. No one's in here.
Here,
Okay,
we're moving up. Move. Yeah, move. Get on Wiz.
I am.
You have the bubble when you come through.
I got you.
That's huge. Good stuff, bro.
Saw some really, really nice pushes and rotations coming out of Rolla Theory there. We also saw the Ashe ult, so they could reposition themselves into a safer spot because they were under one of those teams. But that was a really, really overall solid decision-making movement process to get themselves somewhere safe inside of Skyhook before things start to pop off.
Really nicely done, and also just the presence of mind to toss the bubble out. You're not going to need it, especially if there's not going to be a team in there. Really like the comms. Calm, cool, and collected, and you can see that they definitely know what they're doing in terms of being able to utilize all of their legends at the perfect time. But this zone is a little bit unorthodox. I think we were expecting it to continue to pull a little bit more over towards the north side. It's going to bounce a little bit different. It's going to separate and go over towards the east side, northeast side of Skyhook. So teams like Complexity, they're going to be pleasantly surprised when they find out exactly what's happening over here, but you never know. It may continue to bounce over towards that north side, northwest side. Zones have been fairly unpredictable recently, as we see Black Market on top of Black Market. And it's nice to see NA adapting the Loba strategy, especially if you're going for these fast Valkyrie rotations and you need to get loot a little bit later. You can see Fury with that gold helmet going to be loving the situation.
Yeah, we've seen, you know, how well it was working out for all of our teams in the EMEA region. Now we're going to see if NA can find the same success here. W looks like they're actually getting a decent amount of loot out of it. This is going to be huge for them here once these teams start pushing into these smaller and final zones here. But they have a little bit of time before things start shrinking down and they need to make any big game time decisions. But a lot of these teams are trying to start dealing out a little bit of poke damage, whatever they can, so that when some squads are forced out into the open, they're a little bit easier to pick off.
And you can see they're not rocking the Valkyrie. They don't have a Wraith. They're going with Loba, so they don't have a rotation coming through with Crypto, Gibraltar, and Loba. It's not like you can just pass your bracelet on over to everybody else and they're going to be able to queue on over there. Meanwhile, Lazarus, it's going to be Z Davis, Dink, and P Fitter. They're trying to find a spot to play. This sniper post is actually a decent spot based on where the next zone is going to pull. They don't have that information, though, so they're going to be pleasantly surprised once they find out exactly where zone number 4 is going to go, and hopefully they're going to be able to lock this place down for quite some time. L-Star Massive, not the long range that you're looking for, but Z Davis is ready to 3-2-1 this legend whenever his teammates are going to be there.
Yeah, they do know that there's a squad there in the tunnel. They're keeping their eyes on them, trying to see exactly what's going to happen here with the engagement that's going on in front of them, hoping they can maybe third party and get some easy KP off of this. The patience here is impressive right now from Dank, not wanting to take those shots until it is absolutely necessary.
Oh, this is going to be fun. NRG on the outside looking in, putting pings down. A majority of the time, teams will go and try to push and coexist underneath the large tower in the middle of Skyhook. That doesn't seem to be an option right now, especially when you're rocking this white armor that Rocker has, and there's already teams locking that space down. Yes, that is a big area. You are going to see teams on the bottom, in the middle, on the top. You're going to see multiple teams on the bottom. Once that happens, once Energy has to push over here, a lot of other fights are going to take place.
Yeah, that's when things are going to start to pop off. And we said, you know, we said it before, it's, you know, zones 3 and 4 where things really start to get a little chaotic. As you can see, ever since that first squad went down, we haven't lost anybody else. We're still at 18 squads. So everyone is just playing as passively as possible, which is giving some teams a lot of time to at least have their position picked out, but a lot of those squads that took a little bit longer to get here or on the outskirts are going to have to start making those choices to push in. And as I say that, NRG starts looking outside to see if they can maybe get any more damage down onto the squads, making those last-minute pushes.
So they do have a little bit of safe area to play over here, over towards the respawn area and the fence. It seems to be that's the spot that they're going to go and lock down. But that's where all the money's made, Glitter. You're right. That next zone that's coming and closing, anybody could sit there. Ooh, Senior Service. Looks like they're going to watch a fight happen over there with Stunny and the rest of their squad. I believe they did drop Knocked, RKN, and Eureece. So Air Eternity turning up right here as they're going to be in a prime spot in the middle here. Glitter basically directly, not directly a bullseye, but fairly close. We're looking at maybe a triple 20 here.
Yeah, they didn't know until just now as well, so they have to be pleasantly surprised with this as the zone does continue shrinking down all of these teams. Era is in a very, very solid spot for themselves. And we saw where a lot of the other teams were located, so we know, you and I know, that there are going to be so many teams that have to now rotate out of the buildings that they've been holding for quite some time now. And with squads like Complexity or Era that have these solid spots, it's going to get a little dangerous.
And it's the math game here where Complexity says a majority of the zones that end in Skyhook when we see this type of zone are going to be towards these buildings. They didn't get tricked by the zone, bopping all over the place, so it pulled over towards that east side. We thought it was going to be something a little bit different over here, but here's a big skirmish. Dan Gaskin's holding his breath for this one, and he's trying to find out if they're going to be able to drop Ghost Gaming, and look at that. Ghost Gaming just disappeared like a bunch of magicians. Lou, Crust, and Xenox putting him 6 feet deep immediately, not even losing any shields, basically. 2 of the players still were full, and now Lou is thinking, all right, I'm ready for more blood.
Lots of utility coming out of Lou there. The bubble does get popped by the enemy squad, and the Sentinels decide to just make this push in. They know they have a massive advantage, and the PK shots are coming out. Easy pickings for Sentinels right now. I mean, Gasket's pick is looking real good.
I like that, and it's a little bit of BM there onto Z Davis as they were toying with him a little bit, saying, hey, you think you're going through that portal? Well, that portal was late. Z Davis got completely bailed on. He throws the bubble for his team. Next thing you know, everyone is basically out of there, and Sentinels feeling good. They're going to rotate outside of the train station area into the open over here, and this is where they have to be extremely smart. If they can continue to hold the high ground over towards this bridge, that's going to prove very useful. Meanwhile, the big battle towards the bottom middle area of Skyhook, what we've been waiting for quite some time. It's going to be W coming in with the EMP. It looks like it connected onto a handful of different teams, but their bubble is down, and now Phony is trying to figure out how they're going to go and approach this situation. Defensive environment was just used. It's not going to really hit. It's just to buy some time as they're continuing to hold off all of these teams that are starting to push in.
Oh yeah, there were multiple bubbles down. You can see the W's trying to find which direction to go, but there's teams on every single side, Astral Esports being one of them. And they're able to do a decent amount of damage, but they do lose a player in the process trying to clean up these final KP if they can while keeping themselves alive. But there's a lot of action coming in from the back end, and they just need to survive these last few grenades, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to.
Oh! No scope to the face with the longbow. They won the fight, Glitter, with that last no scope. Look at how much health he had throughout all that. Maybe about 30 HP. If he doesn't hit that shot, they're absolutely done for. And you would think there's a lot of squads that have been eliminated. Well, only 6. A lot more are about to go down here. And the minute and 10 seconds that we are about to see, it's going to be Pow going down. It gets answered right back from Dank as well. A handful of teams fighting on over towards where the Renegade squad was, over towards the Beacon building. They're going to get eliminated as well. Now down to 13 squads over here. Noble locking things down over towards the bottom-hand side. Noble's one of our teams during the qualification process that was really popping off, but we don't have time to talk about that. Premier gets eliminated as well. Lazarus somehow with just a 2-man squad. Got to give him props, Glitter. They lost C. Davis to Sentinels, but they came back strong.
Yeah, they aggressively wanted to take this position from the squad and hopefully get a little bit of loot for themselves in the process here, see what they can do. But, I mean, they've got some decent weapons on them. As long as they can hold out and let the rest of these teams kind of pick each other off and play smart with it, they might be okay. You see Sentinels here on the outskirts of the rest of all of these squads that are in the building right now on different floors. Sentinels honestly might be in a solid spot to just kind of let them all battle it out and get some picks off as they try to escape those fights.
The cafe building is looking strong here for Complexity. They are virtually the only team inside. You can see that building that has all of those teams. They're all going to be standing in the corner like they were a timeout because it is just a sliver of that building that's going to be in. Curious to see how Sentinels is going to make their way in. They're going to have to play the outside of the building, but while that's happening, so many different teams are going to be looking on over there, and this is that classic team composition from a couple seasons ago. Sentinels is not changing. They are continuing to lock things down with their aggressive play, and I think it's going to work out for them. But this is a priority. They cannot let this team land on them. If that's going to be the case, all focus is going to be over towards the backhand side of the building. This is a big moment for Sentinels.
This is a massive moment for Sentinels, and as the zone closes in, they need to decide what they're going to do. So let's take a listen in with Sentinels and see how they want to play this one out.
Don't bring too much attention to us.
Okay, we're able to.
We'll chill right here in the back, behind me. Come me. There's kids on the roof right now. I'm gonna ulti this.
We got EP chill. Oh, I didn't notice.
I'm ulting it.
Yep, that's gonna get a look at this kid right here if he jumps up again.
He's 50 plus on this guy. I'm scanning. I naded him.
Okay. What the fuck is this, bro?
I got him. Oh my god, bro. I'm killing
this
everybody.
team in the corner of the building,
Take the roof. Padding up.
They're padding. Chill. I'm stunned. Just you look.
They're all alone.
I want to take the room so bad.
Yeah, I'm just batting. We can. You want to? Oh, no,
we can't.
Wait, look at his stock.
We can't right now. I scan
Show them the wall. Yeah, I need to scan the roof to see how many people are up there right now. Look at these guys.
There's one. Oh, okay.
Oh, there's a full team in here. Do you have nades for that?
No.
Next zone, we just go under diner, just wrap around.
Is there anybody up here? I need you to scan up here.
No,
Can we just wrap right?
Yeah, we can just wrap all the way right. And we just play under diner and
Bro,
play
I got 4 kills with that Gibby off.
Holy shit.
They've laid traps.
Don't piss this team off. They're gonna fucking hit
No one's up there.
Are we wrapping the fence or under diner?
Wait, is there no one in diner at all?
No, they are. On Cossack team.
He's trying to nade us. Careful.
No, he's nading the other team. He's not fucking with us. They don't care about us. These guys are sliding out. Okay, I'm not gonna fuck with them. I don't want them to shit on us.
Yeah.
Hold on me if you need to shoot.
Yeah, I know. I need to.
They bub.
Right now.
They might swing.
That entire it went from 11 to 6 squads, and Sentinels, who were in a phenomenal spot with nobody even looking their way, are now down to 1 player. It was a never-ending defensive bombardment, and we even heard Sentinels saying that they got 4 kills off of their Gibby ult alone. I mean, that was pure insanity.
Would you rather have the Twitter clip for the content, or would you rather have the dub? That remains to be seen. I'm not quite sure what I would pick, but one thing for sure, NRG. Hey, I think that the predictions are looking pretty solid so far as they're locking down the roof of the diner building. I love that listening from Sentinels, though. You could hear the checklist in terms of the thought process and how all of these teams are going about the situation. They said, hey, let's not mess with this team. We don't really want to piss them off. That's exactly what happened. They pissed them off. They ended up getting pushed out. And now NRG going to take control of the entire map over here, just slowly picking the rest of the teams apart.
NRG doing a great job poking everyone that's around them, being aware of all of the surrounding teams. We also even saw Complexity down below, your fake second pick here, Tom, doing well for themselves on top of everything. We're down to 5 squads right now. It's all about the verticality and who's going to start using their bubbles first, who's going to drop down first. But as I say that, teams are starting to go down.
Prodigy Aces is flirting with death over here. The zone is creeping up. He needs to tell his teammate, hey, creep up a little bit more. This zone's closing in on us. Meanwhile, bubble comes down. It's going to be an opposite bubble from NRG. They're avoiding a majority of the fighting, trying to force these two teams coming into each other. A lot of times when you have that last bubble, you are going to survive, and that is exactly what happens. NRG takes game number 1 in style. A late rotation all the way over towards the back. They somehow get on over towards the diner building. They get the roof, they get control, and they take a huge dub.
That was such a cool, calm, and collected win out of NRG. They held their positioning so well the entire time. They let a lot of other teams kind of take themselves out with those fights. They had the height advantage on the remaining final 4 out of the final 5. I mean, that was the NRG we were hoping to see after their performance from last time around, and they looked solid.
I think the beautiful thing about that game is you could see that you don't need to pick up a lot of kills along the way. A lot of those kills are going to be picked up over towards the tail end of the side, and there it is. Not the biggest game overall. Senior Service somehow with that top middle area was able to pick up the most kills in the game. You could see 10 for them. I loved how I believe it was Fearless and Davis Wave playing on the opposite side of the fence there as just a duo. They were able to rat it out, pick up some extra kills, get some extra placement as well. That's a big game for them overall. But NRG starts it off, like you said, slow and methodical. While so much hectic stuff is happening on the map, you know NRG is really focused on all of the little things that are taking place. Focusing on who's the priority, when to heal, when to drop the bubble, etc., etc. Just a masterclass on how to play Apex right there. And that's why you can see the predictions coming in from the talent side, where we are all thinking NRG is going to continue to do what they are doing. And that's basically because, in my opinion, the communication and the positioning coming through, and Sweet has been such a solid player for that team in terms of just playing that race to perfection. But it is Nathan overall with 5 kills to lead the squad.
Yeah, but look at the damage across the board. Every single one of these players putting in work. And to be fair, you were talking about predictions. To be fair to Gaskin, while Sentinels might not have gotten the placement points they wanted, they still had 7 KP. So if that's the type of aggression and performance we're going to be seeing out of them, they're going to be right there at the top alongside NRG. But NRG coming out of the gate hot with a phenomenal game 1.
I really feel like if Sentinels ended up playing a little bit more passive. And when we heard the listen in where they're saying, don't piss this team off, I think that's exactly what came back to bite them right there, because the push came out. All of a sudden, the arc stars started to come in. The missile barrage came in from Valkyrie, and they had to use the majority of their utility to play defensively. The problem is there, they didn't really determine if they were going to stay on the fence or go and play on the outside of Diner. Maybe the best thing would have been just to rat it out, but like you were talking about, still a solid performance there. And you gotta love that Twitter clip. I can't wait to go and see that one uploaded on there to see exactly how many pops and how much damage happened with the defensive bombardment. That's the best defensive bombardment we've seen in the ALGS so far. That was extremely exciting, but just a really great job from NRG, taking things slowly, popping off when they need to, and showing exactly what they're made of.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, everyone is looking really solid. Now the question is, what happens at game number 2? Do the teams towards the bottom start to make a little bit of a comeback, or do the teams at the top continue battling it out to hold on to that top position? I mean, Tom, what do you think? How do you think this is going to go?
I think that it's going to go pretty similar to how game number 1 went, where it's just going to be very slow to start and then an absolute bloodbath in game number 3 and 4. I really wouldn't have it any other way, but it remains to be seen. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to have game number 2.
Monster Energy, the official energy drink of the Apex Legends Global Series.
back, everybody, to the ALGS Pro League, and it's North American time with one game already done and dusted and in the history books. NRG, my pick, coming out on top. Dan, your pick of Sentinels doing pretty well in picking up some kills, doing pretty well, but I struggled a little bit earlier in EMEA, all right? So I've got to go pretty hard on the predictions and just hammer it home. But NRG, Dan, once again, a great example of what they do best. Somehow or other, finding themselves in a great position towards endgame and finding a rotation that everybody else seems to avoid.
Yeah, NRG are one of those teams who just seem to be in the right place at the right time at all times, and that comes down to the in-game leadership and also their ability to just work as a cohesive unit. But it was still the points picked up elsewhere. Senior Service, they tied with NRG. As you said, still some good points for Sentinels. Apparently my pick and the only pick there wasn't NRG. Let's not make it about us against you, me against them. It's just about the teams, though. We don't need to worry about predictions unless I win. Complexity were there on 11 points, though, in third place. And, it was just an amazing game to watch. It was, I'm going to be honest, better than all of the EMEA games that we watched earlier. A, because we had a Northern Circle for the first time for the entirety of today. But it was just so many teams in that last circle. And the defensive bombardment coming out, getting like 4 or 5 knocks. The kill feed was running quicker than anything I've ever seen before. Oh, it was delightful. I hope we get something like that in game number 2.
Oh, 100%. It's one of those circles as well, I think, that a lot of teams have a lot of history on, right? They know how it plays. They know what the strongest positions are. So you saw a lot of teams kind of making those last-ditch attempts to try and take height, try and take roof. And that's what I was talking about by NRG. They always seem to be, somehow or other, the team who plays it best. They see other battles unfolding, and they just time their push absolutely perfectly to take that god position right towards the end on top of the building. It just seems like there's just a knack with NRG, and it's sweet to call it. We talk about it all the time, and it's almost like a broken record at this point, but to have someone who just has that sixth sense of when to go and when not to go is just invaluable to any team.
Yeah, and not just their ability to kind of be on that high ground and to play it as well as they did leading up to that final zone. It was the way in that final fight when there was only 3 teams left and they dropped down into the correct position again. They bubbled at the right time. They pushed all together as a unit. There wasn't any mistakes really made, and that's what you need. You need just very few mistakes across the broadcast. That's going to help you with your consistency, and consistency is going to result in points and you being higher in the leaderboards. Now, NRG, of course, they're not top of North America, but they would very much like to be, and they really could do with an impressive week here today. Because when we look back at week 1, when these two groups competed against each other, NRG were down in the bottom 10. They didn't have a great time. Sentinels did. Sentinels completely mopped the lobby, but it seems like people have adjusted to the meta as it's developed here in the ALGS, and NRG seem to be a lot more comfortable now than they were in week 1.
I've talked about form a lot recently with week-by-week Pro League, and we've had the opportunity to watch teams play consistently, which is where you kind of get the idea of form from, right? And NRG have been on the up and up. You can't say it enough. After week 1, we were a little bit like, it's a little bit strange for NRG not to be up there, really putting up big kills, putting up big placements. But every week, they found a comp that works for them. They've got better and better. And now we are seeing the return of NRG at their real sort of top level. At the other end of things, even though it's only one game, gone, I'm looking at Esports Arena, Dan, because they have been one of the teams who we've been raving about recently. We were saying they deserve to be up there, mentioned with the likes of NRG, Sentinels, for example, because they are top of the Pro League rankings overall in North America. But not the greatest of first games. They've got a lot of work to do in the next 5.
Yeah, I'm looking to see in this next game, though, a couple of teams to maybe step things up. I think that Sentinels will be delighted with the 5th place that they got, because they were in a difficult situation. When they were hit behind the wall there was always going to be that time when all the 10 teams they were kind of scanning in that building would eventually, some of them notice they were going to be on the other side of the wall. And when that did happen, they got caught out. One of the teams eventually desperately pushed them, aped onto them, and inevitably it didn't go down too well. And sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. But when they were fighting in the train tracks, they looked very confident. They looked like the team that we saw in week 1 rather than week 2, when it was very much night and day. And that's the Sentinels that I want to be seeing. I want to see several teams with the confidence to just consistently push other teams and win those fights, but not win them in an elongated fashion. I want these fights finished quickly so that you can loot up and then you can re-engage if there is another team nearby. Because how many times do we see teams finishing a fight but just not being able to quickly reset so they can get involved in the next one?
Good game for Complexity as well, something that we should highlight, involved in that end circle, and a really good thing for them. The two teams I always look at for early game success across the series are Complexity and Sentinels. It seems to just breed confidence through them, and to see them both performing at the level they did in that first game is certainly going to
light the blue touch paper, so to speak, for their performance in the next 5 games. But game 1 is done and dusted, and now we've got to do it all over again here on World's Edge. We're dropping into game number 2 of our North American Pro League, and I'm sure that NRG would love nothing more than to go back-to-back here.
And I'm sure that they'd love nothing more than another Northern Circle, and everyone's just going to be praying. Let's see more of it. Let's see some different Apex today. Let's see how these teams adjust to the North. But for Complexity, they are going to be dropping, and they're going to, of course, just be going through their normal measurements of picking things up. But for now, I just want to see where that circle goes on set, because we saw so many South circles today in EMEA, but are we going to see a pattern emerge in North America now where we start to see, you know, I don't know, 6 Northern circles?
Well, we're going to have to see if that is the case. Maybe it's going to even out over time, but maybe not for the players who are involved across a single region. But Complexity, as I mentioned, a good performance in game number 1. Love watching them have that hot performance in game 1, because it just means, like I mentioned, they're going to feel themselves, they're going to be confident in those fights as the game does start to progress and as the series does start to progress as well. And I love watching this lineup as well. I love the change up on the composition as well, as we see the circle popping up and we get the beacon information. For NRG, it's going to be all smiles, because it's going to be between thermal station and staging where they land. And if there's one team who are very, very good down at holding down a kind of a position where the circle does pull, it's going to be NRG. They know how to play all situations, and they're going to have a big, big smile on their face, like I mentioned.
Also, not so bad for the likes of Renegade, Sentinels. They're going to be nearby, and Premier, or Oxygen, sorry, are going to be in Harvester. So these are some pretty easy, comfortable rotations, but it's just about taking those priority positions where you think that circle is going to be moving to. Just outside of staging, holding the top of staging can be very beneficial because there's going to be a beacon there to work with. So NRG may well take that kind of position, but you do leave yourself vulnerable to the point where you can get shot from several angles. So that's why some teams like to take the building in staging. But then when the circle does transition away from staging, if you are in that building, you can just be the victim of being on the low ground. And we know full well from Star Wars, it's not great to be on the low ground.
Yep, Han Solo also does unfortunately come to his end in Star Wars. I'm just going to see spoilers now. I'm all about that at the moment. Oh, it's 10-year-old spoilers. That's what I'm all about. Little mistake on my part as well. Apologies to everyone. Got a little bit carried away. ESA not in the lobby today. It was a little mistake on the graphic, which caught my eye. But now that we've put that one right, it's back to the truth. I'm telling the truth now. I'm a truth teller.
You did confuse me.
NRG.
I was a bit worried.
Yeah, I confused everyone.
Okay.
If you're watching right now and you thought, hey, what's he on about? Keeping you on your toes, everybody. Keeping you honest. It was a mistake, okay? I'm owning up to it right now.
Takes a real man to own up to their mistakes, but Star Wars spoilers, that is not a real man. I still don't. I'm not happy. What if someone's not watched it? That's not really very fair. Anyway, Ghost Gaming are going to be moving on in at the moment, again playing with more of a traditional composition that we've seen a few of these teams stick to in North America. Bloodhound's still very prevalent, and doesn't look like they're going to have to contest with anyone right now, but they are on the trails of someone else. That's one of the benefits of playing Bloodhound. You can track a team, as it were, see who's come where, but no hostiles in this vicinity.
Yeah, a little bit of a slow game, much like we saw at the start of the last one. No surprise to see that with the amount of talent in this lobby. And we do wonder if it's going to slightly increase the pace as the games do go on, due to the fact that we did see that in EMEA a little bit earlier. And it did get a little bit messy, to be honest with you, a little bit unpredictable. But we are seeing a little bit of an engagement here. A couple of nades here, a couple of nades there, and a couple of bubbles being put down on the ground just to give a little bit of safe footing. Ghost looking to maybe look to take a little bit of an early fight here, but instead it's going to be the scan to get the information, and now a little Scarper away because they don't want to take that rotation because multiple teams are already in the vicinity.
Yeah, there's going to be plenty of teams around sniffing for a few kills, so instead you want to get to safety here. You want to find some sort of position you can play at least in the next circle, if not even thinking about the circle after that. But of course you do need the scan to have that information, and not every team does have the scan. This was something we heard from a few of the teams in listen-ins during EMEA. You can play entirely differently when you do have that scan, but also you have to play around others and whether they have the scans as well, because their rotations and their positioning may be slightly different if they don't have the same information that you have. NRG, they have all of the information though, and they had the drop, and they dropped pretty much where this circle is going, but they have transitioned away ever so slightly from their drop location on set, taking more of a high ground area here and working with something a little bit different.
Well, they do have the spot, and this is the NRG spot, as I named it, because this is where they've won multiple games, so they are very, very competent at holding that down. But we are going to see a portal at the moment underneath Renegades, who are up on top. So a little play being made, and these two teams will coexist for now. And you have to wonder if they have beacon information, or maybe this is a slightly longer play as Torrent are that team underneath. Noct joining the lineup in replacement of Hill, who's been benched by this lineup. And we watched an arena tournament last weekend, and I tell you what, Noct was extremely confident in a lot of his gunfights, is the best way to put it. He was quite simply, Dan, like an egg in the morning. He was frying.
Yeah, I think that this...
Not scrambled. He wasn't scrambled.
No,
because
okay?
frying.
There are several
bad
ways
analogy.
that eggs can be,
exactly.
Yep,
I
or
thought
boiled,
this through.
You know,
I've got to
microwave.
step it up a little bit here. Yeah, I've got to step it up a little. Carry on, Dan. Sorry.
We can change that analogy for the Americans as well. He was sunny side up. There we go.
Oh,
That's
love it.
Even better. But Torrent do look different. Just from that tournament that we were commentating, the Arenas tournament, they look like a different side. Just seem to be a little bit more comfortable in team fights, which is really going to help in Battle Royale as well. But Complexity not so far away, but Complexity also a couple of grenades they're going to have to work with here. It seems like their position and the jig is up, so they might have to be careful because you can be very vulnerable down here.
Well, let's do one of my favorite things in Apex Legends. Let's jump into a listen-in with Complexity. Let's see if it makes me laugh, or let's see if it's going to be them just making a rotational call. Let's jump in.
Some barrels to the southeast.
I also just didn't use shotguns back then.
I didn't use shotguns for a long time. I used Wingman R9 for a long-ass time.
Can you hold this for a sec?
Those pieces were OP. Yep. No, I can't, actually.
I just want to look this real quick.
Well, can't reach here. It's on the far side of that bridge.
Yep, I just got 2 more cells. There's 2 barrels above us I want to loot, but...
Are they bubble crafting? Oh, they were. Yeah, early game is just going to be the most uncomfortable for us right now.
Oh yeah, 100%.
When third zone shows is when things will be best for us, assuming it comes here to our side.
We have
If it doesn't, we
staging
just
side
vocal.
too, so we just go on top of the mountain and fight for A-frame or some shit.
Yeah.
How many syringes do you guys have? I'm 2 medkit, 1 syringe.
I've got 4. Here you go.
Ooh, anybody got a long range gun?
Yeah, I have.
I've got 1
armor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a hemi, so.
Okay, I've got flatline with the 3x. You need the 3x to farm.
Anybody want a
2 to 4 hemi.
Okay.
I'm 2 to 4 hemi. I'm good. I just don't even know where I can peek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, actually, trade me armor real quick. One of you.
Yeah.
Please. Okay. Sorry, I'm just gonna check above us for an armor real quick.
Do it.
I got a Mastiff.
All teams shooting over there.
Oh, that was worth here. Armor.
Evo shield here, level 2.
So all business from Complexity. The humour will come, I'm sure, if they put some more points on the board. But for now, they're going to be a little bit careful because, see, there's a crypto drone around. There's some EMPs going off. And Reptar still doesn't have that Evo shield leveled up, Dan. So they've got to be extremely careful here.
This is one of my least favourite positions to play on the map, but I'm not a pro player. Some people can navigate things far better than I can. Complexity just need to be very careful from the rocks above them, because if there is teams that do take those angles, they're going to be so vulnerable and so exposed. So they are trying to use those gas barrels to just provide a little bit of a blockage to the visibility, and they do have the get or jail free card of using the Valkyrie if things get a little bit hairy, but at the same time, you could just get blasted out the sky. So we'll see how that plays out for Complexity at the moment. They're safe. No one has really taken too keen an interest to try and push them, but that could change later as the circle gets smaller. Elsewhere, other teams are, of course, still making their way across the map. Those who have had to move a little bit further from north to south. One of those being Unlucky, who still aren't within the circle yet, but still 1 minute 40 to transition to the next. So they're still pretty comfortable, and they're playing the Ashe as well. It's been great to see plenty of Ashe action across both EMEA and NA. I do love when a new legend is added, and they make their way into the competitive scene.
Well, they can see MX making their way into this compound, but as you can see, it's going to be occupied by numerous people at the moment, so you're going to have to be very careful, though. I think it's just one team at the moment who are split across these buildings, so they will be safe. As Jomax has to pop the battery, and I say safe for now as the Arc Star starts to rain through the windows a little bit, and there's a Thermite as well, and that really is starting to tick away at things. There's another Arc Star. At the moment, Jomax is just going to decide to just take this one and see if they can hold off the team as they push. So there's a little bit of an interesting decision not to try and back away from that one, and now they find themselves in a little bit of a sticky situation. Another battery going to have to be popped, but it looks like they're surviving for now as Lazarus try and get some more angles and see if they can really capitalize on this damage.
And this fight is still going on. There's a lot of noise that is being sent around World's Edge that will just naturally bring other teams a little bit close by to have a little listen to see whether maybe they could push in third party. So you have to make a decision pretty soon. Do we continue to elongate this fight, or do we just give up on it and start to bring a little bit more silence across World's Edge? Because otherwise there will be teams in the vicinity. We did see a brief moment that circle is moving down towards Thermal Station, so Complexity will be absolutely fine and dandy where they were currently residing. We are going to have to see NRG move ever so slightly from the position they were holding, but they can probably go down to the buildings just north of Thermal Station if no one is taking those. So plenty of spots still to be played, but it is a circle that is going to benefit the likes of Complexity and NRG, who have taken those early moves.
Yeah, NRG as well going to be able to hold that choke down and really sort of throttle any teams that are trying to make their way through. So there might be some KP opportunities for NRG as well as a good placement, but for now, Legacy are really struggling a little bit as Lazarus have just constantly got a foothold on them and just keep doing this damage. They're going to be burning through meds. They're having to reset on the bottom floor now, which is certainly going to be safer to play because I'm pretty sure they've got the doors available. Yes, they do, unlike they did on that top floor. So they won't be as exposed. So a small transition, but a smart transition coming in from Legacy MX here, just making sure that the micro is there and they can survive for now.
Yeah, it's all about these little plays in the highest level of Apex Legends. In the previous game, when we saw a team get a knock and the player that was knocked down was next to a portal, they started the finisher just to stop the player being able to crawl towards the portal, and then of course came off that finisher once that player had accepted his death, and then they took him down. It is just those little things sometimes they can make or break team fights, and it can ensure you get the best out of your ability. But it seems like this fight has stagnated ever so slightly. Teams have backed off away from one another. Elsewhere, SXG seem to be on the other side of a building here, very much just peering through the windows like your creepy neighbours that you talk about.
Yeah, Slurpy G can see you. I think he's not trying to be too quiet about things, and the damage is done. He's going to be jumping out with that PK choked up, forcing the bubble now, so he's going to have to be extremely careful around this door. Missile Swarm comes in from elsewhere, which will just make things a little bit more awkward, but this is somewhat of an isolated fight, right on the edge of zone here, so SXG just trying to hold them out for now. Any kind of grenade that they have that they could just roll in that door is going to do a tremendous amount of damage, and that might be KP. For a team who, to be honest with you, Dan, SXG have been one of those teams who constantly pick up KP in every lobby they're in.
Yeah, they are a team that know how to get involved into fights and know how to finish those fights, but they're a little bit wary right now because of what's happening elsewhere. Bullets raining in from all directions, so they don't want to expose themselves to those bullets because otherwise then they'll be pushing in weak to the team that's inside. So they do have to be extremely patient here, but it is just a frustrating one for both teams. But here's the bubble.
Oh, it's a big 62 damage with the PK, and the Gibby goes down. Slurpy G, huge damage from him. Playing around the knockdown, jumps into the void, and this is looking like SXG should get a clean wipe on that final player alive. The bubble goes down. They do, unfortunately, get knocked by one, and it's Golden who's starting to go a little bit wild here. But no, it's going to be SXG who managed to win this one. They will get the res by the looks of things. They will avoid a third party as they crawl back around this corner. So KP on the board for SXG here.
That knock does mean it gives time for a third party if anyone's close, but it doesn't look like anyone's interested in it. So the patience has paid off. They are going to be able to loot up, and they'll have plenty to work with going into this next circle. But they've got the furthest to move, you would have to say, and there's so many different teams they're going to have to get past. And the final boss, you could say, is going to be NRG, who are most likely holding that choke that you were speaking of. But first point of contact is going to be unlucky. They're waiting on this bridge. Are they going to hold out this team, or are they going to decide instead to transition to this circle?
Well, the tether goes out from Prodigy Aces, just trying to slow things down, or maybe just cause a distraction for them to move up a little bit. Osenpai, obviously, on the Gibraltar is going to take a little bit of damage. We all know what it's like to play Gibby sometimes when you have to make a rotation. You're going to be taking the brunt of the damage, but SXG, having done that damage, are going to force the bubble as well here, Dan. So SXG, once again, just on the hunt for KP.
The ult is there for Prodigy Aces if they want to use it to get out, as well as, yep, okay, you've got the Valkyrie ultimate jetting up into the sky, and as long as you can avoid the bullets, you should be fine. But where do you go from here? There's going to be a lot of real estate that would have been taken by the majority of teams, and SXG
They're
said,
after you.
Anything you can do, we can do better. More bullets do fly past them, but it looks like they could just follow them if they wanted to, but there's not going to be many places to land right now, I'd say.
I thought you were going to burst into a Blink-182 song for a few moments ago when you were like, where do we go from here? I'm feeling this. Anyway, a little bit of a battle going down here. You can see OXG inside of the building, just trying to hold off anyone that's pushing onto them. The Nox gas will go out, which is starting to tick away. Not just tick away as well. Sweet also in the kill feed, picking up a kill with that charge rifle onto Rack. An issue coming in from Noble. So NRG already starting to find themselves a little bit more active, but OXG, you can see they're kind of caught in a position here that they don't want to be in. Hambino is thinking about the defensive bombardment, maybe just to push the team off a little bit and create some space for them. But with that zone pull now, they're the ones who have to make the move. The Caustic has already used his ultimate, so now they have to work things a little bit more methodically than they were before.
Some of these team changes just make everything confusing in the kill feed, though, don't they? Some players will be watching it saying, oh, wait, Premier have lost one. Wait, no, it's Oxygen. Is it Premier? Who's going down? Not changed their tags yet. Maybe they'll change it for next week. But Reptile's getting kills, as well as Monsoon, so Complexity are in a scrap with Noble. It looks like they are coming out on top, whereas NRG have moved to those buildings I was speaking about just north of Thermal Station. They can sit fine and dandy and watch all those teams approaching this circle from the window. So they've done pretty well to just consistently move with this circle, but we'll see where it pulls once we get to the next zone.
Charge rifle certainly going to be useful in this situation as well, just to farm damage, but also just to give presence. And now there's going to be a care package. And I tell you what, if this opens up and there's a Kraber in there, I was going to say, Sweet is going to be singing his way back to this building. Instead, it's an alternator, so a lot of shields are going to be absolutely stripped away in that late game. The Alternator Prowler combination coming in from Sweet, that is not something you want to be walking into a building and being met with.
No, that was a fantastic gift, just to be so easily acquired. No one even contesting the package, so I think NRG would have had smiles on their faces when it arrived, and there's a little bit of ring around the roses going on down here. A few teams in very much close vicinity who are going to be involved in a fight as soon as it engages, but SXG still looking for some KP, and it's just another looking out from in once more.
SXG are the kind of people who come to collect debts, is how I see it. About to knock your door down and go, that's my TV, that's going to pay a bill, and now they're going to look to pay the bills with some kills themselves, as they do manage to get not just one, but two, and a clean wipe once again. SXG, do get the kills, but as you say, Dan, this is going to now be a desperate dash to try and beat the zone, because with Zone 4 closing, this thing is going to sting. And they do have the health to take a little bit of damage, but can they find somewhere to play? Because there's going to be teams in front of them. Do they have a bubble to play with as well, just to give them time to reset? They do. They can get the meds off, but this is going to be a desperate call now from the IGL. Where do we want to play? Where can we play? And if anything, can we play? A senior service now make the push inside the building, but NRG are there, and the Alternator is Sweet once again, gets damage done.
Well, I said NRG were going to be the final boss, and that they are. They are waiting in the wings to do damage, but senior service, the team they're actually scuffling with right now. Ghost Gaming have gone down elsewhere as we go into our top 10, but NRG are still sitting pretty in this building, and that next circle is not too far away, so they don't have to worry just yet. But at the moment, there's abilities flying everywhere, ultimates, grenades raining through, but elsewhere, Torrent also getting kills. RKN onto Hill. That's a kill that you wouldn't have expected to happen.
Oh, wow. How it always happens to you, right? It's always the next teammate who gets that knock. As NRG, though, they've managed to hold on to this position for now with multiple teams above them. I just wonder if a port's going to come out here from Sweet to try and get away from this stacked-up building, or if they're going to just try and clear the roof themselves and then maybe play from there. Sweet takes a little bit of damage, but we'll be able to pop one shield cell here to get pretty much back to full HP with that gold armor. But this is a big moment here for NRG. How do they try and move from here?
Yeah, I think that Sweet is going to be the first person who has to just try and do some damage with his Alternator. And you're right, they've got a decision to make. Do they try and push off the building? Do they go for the portal and try to just get away from the rest of the teams that are nearby here? It's all going to come down to whether NRG and Sweet can do this damage initially. It's all down to confidence at this point. Do NRG feel like after their first place placement, they can afford to take a risk and go for this fight here? If they do, sure, go for it. If not, you've got to try and go for the safer approach. That's what Apex is about, survivability. You've only got 8 seconds to make a decision here. Let's see how they play it.
Let's see what NRG do. Let's jump straight into a listen-in with the 3 men on your screen.
Get ready to insta-take it. Port's good. Port's really good. There's a team at the island looking at us. There's a team at the island looking at us, but we're fine. The island team is not safe. All we gotta do is delay. All we gotta do is delay.
I'm batting.
Yeah, we're gonna have to kill left. We're gonna have to kill left late.
We're not in zone here, by the way.
I know, but we're gonna walk up to the ridge late and fight. I'm out of heals. Any cells? Drop me one cell.
No cells.
We're fighting up here.
All night.
Popping it back. Get ready to walk in late, and we're gonna fight for yellow. Fighting for yellow. Why are you still? You're gonna maybe have to bubble us here.
Bubbling here.
Bubble, 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 bubble. Look left, look left, look left. All fighting left.
We're on zone here.
There, look right, look right.
Oh my! They're fucking so low, am I?
Nice. We're in zone here. We're fine. We're fine.
I need to heal. I'm
Across.
I'm gonna die.
I'm dead.
Hold your knock.
I have no heals. I have 0 heals.
No.
We just don't have heals, man.
Dude, no, man.
They tried to make the play down, but unfortunately they just got harassed in the side there. NRG fall as they try and make that final rotation towards that high ground. Complexity, though, still involved in this game, inside of the top 5, and they are in a prime position to pick up kills and get a great placement here.
Did get a couple of KP, though, and they go out in 6th, I think is where they finally finished. So it's not all the all and end all. At least they got into a decent spot and they pick up some points to work with. But elsewhere in this circle, Complexity, after their position they were holding a lot earlier, they've managed to work their way into this last circle in a very healthy state indeed. Plenty of resources to work with, but there is a team right on the other side, and this could very quickly end up in a 3v3 engagement if one of the teams gets confident.
Any damage that gets done here, Complexity are going to have to push. They've got around 5 or 6 seconds before the zone starts to move behind them, so don't be surprised to see a bubble go down, but the EMP is going to slow everybody down, and now the bubble is forced, and that's going to give the go sign to the other team, but oh my word! Shiny just putting up huge numbers in this bubble fight with the PK. Oh my Shiny! That's how you deal with a team in front of you, my word!
Look, Nuggy Butt takes one in the butt, and now Complexity are just pushing on, and they are going to show what they can do in this final circle, because not only have they found themselves in one of the prime position, but they've also got resources in those death boxes. Elsewhere, this is absolutely mad at the donut. Sentinels on top of it, and they've got 2 other teams below them.
Xenox with 4 kills to his name as well. The kill leader, the tether goes out, which is going to slow Complexity for just a few seconds. Also going to give them that information that Complexity are still there and trying to move up. And now there's an Asho up to the high ground, and Xenox is trying to command as much space as possible as Complexity are just trying to scrap for what they can on the floor. They've got armor swaps to work with, but this is a big moment here for Complexity, as now they have to fight on the high ground, and Sentinels are kings of the tower right now, looking down on all of the peasants.
I absolutely love this. This is what we wanted to see from an Ashe, right? This is something that usually only a Pathfinder will be able to give you, maybe even an Octane. Wraith's not going to be able to get up there, but Sentinels could just watch all of this unfold, and then they can drop into that final fight. They should be guaranteed top 2 just by being sitting here.
Now they're just going to watch these bubbles go down. Our Complexity going to have to fight against Torrent before Sentinels have to get involved. Sentinels has to be careful here as the bubble goes down. They look to the skies just to check what's going on. There is a solo Valkyrie, I think, who's taken to the skies. As now the battle starts to open up below, and that's going to be the sign for Sentinels to drop. They managed to get one, and it's just going to be a case of cleaning up these knocks before they find that final player, who is up on height for now, so it's maybe not as easy as they thought. The circle will close eventually, though, and Estro Esports, it's a vain effort towards the end, but Sentinels will be the champions. And if you had the question, will Ashe be meta in competitive Apex Legends? I think you have your answer.
Yeah, there is not many Legends that could have provided that quick a route to the high ground without exposing yourself. Pathfinder, sure, could have created a zip, but zipping across would have been pretty slow, and you would have been very vulnerable. Octane's pad could have left you vulnerable as well, because you're literally flying through the sky. But a portal where you can't be touched? Yeah, that sounds pretty good, and it won the game for Sentinels, but they had to get there first. Remember, they played it correctly. We didn't get to see much of their POV in that actual game, but the fact they were in that final circle, they were on top of that building, just showed that they were playing it well. They got 10 kills to go alongside first place, 22 points. Shout out Estro Esports to get that second place just with the 1 kill, but Complexity also racking up some fantastic points as well.
I think the scariest thing about Sentinels and the way that they play is whenever they take home first, second, third, whatever it is, you know they're going to have KP. It's very rare that you'll see them with 2, 3 KP and one of those placements up towards the top of the table. They always have, 8, 9, 10, whatever it might be. And whenever we're going over to Xenox at the moment, Dan, regardless of the week, regardless of the lobby, the man has just been unleashed by Sentinels at the moment, and it's great to see him, getting the plaudits maybe that a lot of players and a lot of people maybe haven't been giving him over the recent months, or over the last year or so, to be honest with you. But this team just seems to be working every single facet of it at the moment. It just seems to be just gluing together beautifully to make a wonderful thing. And Xenox, I mean, not a huge amount of damage for him, but the kills to go alongside it, just capitalizing on the damage being done by Lou.
I think what we have to start looking at with a lot of these teams now who should have done enough realistically to be going to playoffs is who has the most ability to win games when it comes down to it. When we eventually drift into a match point format, who is going to be able to take those W's? Who has that clutch factor? Sentinels and NRG, both squads that do have that kind of X factor about them. When you get to the final circle and you're watching them, you're like, yeah, they've always got a chance to win this game, even if they're in a bad situation. However, in both games, they've both been in fantastic situations, but that does put Sentinels up to top. 32 points, Complexity behind them on 27. NRG dropped 2 places after they unfortunately went down. They tried to make that transition to the next circle, but I feel like resources hurt them. They didn't have the ability to heal up quick enough after they did get into that circle. But another amazing game too. NA not disappointing whatsoever.
Sorry to jump in there. I was just saying, what a top 3 that is as well, right? We were hoping some of the biggest names in the world would be hitting form at the right time. When you've got a top 3 of Sentinels, Complexity, NRG, you know we're in for a good day of Apex Legends, everybody. As Senior Service doing a good job so far over the 3 games to find themselves in 4th place. And again, shout out to Estral Esports as well, jumping up 5 spots there. Renegade's just in behind, and Torrent with a much better performance than what we've seen from them after 2 games, than what we've seen pretty much from the whole of the Pro League. So Nox seems to be having the impact that they want as well, Dan.
Yeah, and just seeing Torrent next to Premier as well, with Hill joining Premier for these games. And you know, you just sometimes you want to see that story, don't you? That origin story of maybe Hill overturning Torrent after being benched originally. But you know, we'll see if they have any more encounters a little bit later, because there were some engagements that happened between those two in that game. But I loved it. I've loved his first 2 games. They've got me on the edge of my seat, and they're keeping me awake as well, because we've started later and we started at 1 AM over here, but I don't feel tired whatsoever thanks to these games.
The adrenaline is going, Dan. Don't worry. We've got 4 more games to bring you as well. It's time for us to jump to a break, though, before we get to game number 3. Don't go far, though. We'll be right back.
Lenovo Legion. Gaming PCs that are stylish on the outside and savage on the inside. Lenovo Legion is the official PC and monitor of the Apex Legends Global Series.
We are back. Hope you didn't miss us that much, but I hope you missed the action because game number 2 was absolutely crazy. Glitter and T-Squared getting ready to bring you game number 3. 2 different zones, 2 different winners, things you love to see.
I mean, okay, so you mentioned this at the beginning of the show, and this is something that I wanted to talk about a little bit. We have 2 different winners so far. However, I went back and I looked at all the weeks because I thought I noticed something that seemed a little bit crazy. But every single week, for every single group combination, whichever team has been in first place position has had 2 wins on the day. Every time.
Ah. Math, stats, I'm there for it. You love to see it. I think that we had some pretty solid, positioning and just great teamwork coming in from Sentinels. And you also saw just amazing work from NRG. These are teams that fight for positioning, but you also love that listening from NRG in game number 2, where they were very, very close to playing that high ground on the edge of Thermal Station, looking down on all of the action as we take a look at that overall leaderboard. Sentinels, Complexity, NRG, the heavy hitters sitting up over towards the top. Senior Service, they had a solid game number 1. Didn't really have an impressive game number 2. That's why they're going to drop down a couple of spots. But right behind them, Astral and Renegades. So when we're looking at these top organizations, they are looking extremely strong right now, Glitter.
Yeah, I was wondering if all of the teams that we were expecting to do well were going to be able to live up to those expectations. And right now, it feels like they're doing it without even trying. I mean, the Sentinels Ash play at the end of that last game was so clean, and this is what we were hoping for when we were talking about will we see some use of Ash now that we have like this new meta. That was what I had envisioned in like a perfect Ash end game play world. They had the height, and they were the only squad that could get themselves up there to begin with. That is, in my mind, what the future of bringing Ash into some of these comps looks like.
Pathfinder vibes, but much cleaner and not as risky because you don't have to bounce around on that zipline. As soon as they made it so you couldn't bounce on the zipline more than 3 times, a lot of things happened to Pathfinder where they just said, hey, you know what? There's time for new legends with different kits that are going to come through and make this meta that much more interesting. Ash is definitely one of those legends to watch out for. We have this kind of idea in our head, it could be true, could be not, that the teams haven't, speaking of Ash, there it is, Senox is going to go and take this one and bust out the Ash too. So that's the thing, is if you are comfortable with adapting, if you're not going to shy away from change, you're going to pick up Ash in these type of situations. But I've been impressed with just the variety of compositions that we're seeing. We're seeing every different legend basically be utilized. North America rocking a lot more Bloodhound than we were expecting, but that is just going in terms of playing the edge of the zone, going to be one of the things that you need to have. Hitting those scans is absolutely huge. Speaking of Sentinels, the zone is pulling directly towards them. It's going to be a central zone over towards the Lava Siphon. So we've had one over towards Thermal, one over towards Skyhook. Now we're getting something a little bit more southern, a little bit over towards the central of the map. And Sentinels is going to love what they see. Teams in Harvester with an easy rotation. Geyser is going to be interesting too. But what I want to know is, will Sentinels bully all these teams over towards the southern side? Maybe Renegades tries to rotate over from Tree. That's what they're known for. Sentinels, even back when that was Sorting Factory, was not a team to mess with in their home court.
Yeah, and they have not been shying away from aggression whatsoever. As we're watching Unlucky here, just kind of getting their start in trials, making sure they get their loot. They are going to have a little bit of a rougher rotation, considering some of the teams that they will potentially run into along their way down south towards where the zone is. So that's something we'll definitely be keeping our eyes on.
Double gold bag is what I'm seeing from Unlucky, so the tables have turned. They may have to change their name here, and one of the things about landing over towards Trial when Liquid's not there, well, you don't have to worry about it, and it's going to be absolutely free. Keep in mind, 19 squads are in the lobby because Benchwarmers, they disbanded. Madness, the only player on that team besides Rambo and Knock, right? So Madness is looking for a squad. Still, we'll find out. Maybe there's going to be some team changes. If you've been kind of keeping track of what's going on Twitter, we'll find out exactly what happens as the days unfold. Don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. Let's focus on exactly what's happening in this game. But like you talked about, the rotation going to be difficult for Unlucky. They're going to have to play the edge over here. Casellas does have the Skyward Dive soon if they want to go and use that one. But it's all about looting up if you're going to play the edge over here. Unfortunately for Unlucky, the armors are not looking that solid. That's not something that you would expect coming out of the trials area. Typically, you're going to be getting some golds, some purples, only 1 purple and 2 gold bags with a gold helmet. So that's not that bad in terms of what they're looking for utility, but armor-wise, you would love to see them get a little bit more, and that's what Prodigy Ace is going to do. He's going to pick up that blue armor that was charged up while they were shooting the Prowler. He's going to be able to pick up that cell as well and get full shields. This is the team I want to watch, though. Sentinels. They have to worry about all the teams starting to rotate in over here. They're going to have to pick at the litter in terms of being able to position themselves, and it looks like this is the spot that they plan on holding.
I mean, you were talking about not the best armor loot for Unlucky. However, Sentinels are looking pretty comfortable for themselves right now. They're in a solid spot. They've got decent loot, but we do notice, I mean, they are giving up their Valk option in order to use that Ash. So if there were a situation, they're fine now with where they are positioning wise, but if they ever needed to do a long rotate, they don't have the same mobility that some of those squads that do have Valkyrie on their squad have. So that's just something to pay attention to, see if in the long run it ends up affecting them at all today.
I think it's going to help them because of the fact that the zone pulls towards them. It's like they knew or something like that, and they're in cahoots with what's going on with the pulls. But I love that. I love that they switched on away from Valkyrie, where all of a sudden you expect to need that redeploy for these southern zones that have been happening consistently. Well, it's going to pop right back on over towards Lava Siphon, which is a popular end zone. Just in Apex in general, was extremely popular for the EMEA region. Back on boards with Unlucky. They're going to be rotating over towards the landslide area and harvester area. I like to see what they're going to be doing, but we don't have time because Complexity is now making their skyward dive on over towards that harvester side as well, trying to pick up some Valkyrie passives along the way. Ping's going on over towards the no-name building. That's a very popular building to go and hold as you make your way on across, but there it is. The first passive is being shown, and now Complexity is going to make sure they get inside this building. Monsoon is going to chuck a couple barrels out, make sure they're A-okay before they figure out their next rotation.
Yeah, and that is the exact mobility utility we were talking about there with Valkyrie, and Complexity needed it considering where the zone is, right? So they're able to make their way into the safe zone for now so they can figure out what they want to do from here. Reptar taking a little bit of damage as he peeked out that door from teams across the way. But we know that this is where things are going to start to get a little bit packed. They're going to have a lot of teams to have to push their way through if they want to continue making any movement farther into the zone. So right now they're probably just going to hold here, start putting the caustic barrels down and reset, figure out exactly what everyone else's plan around them is to do, and then they can kind of react from there, because right now they're in a safe spot.
You can see double black markets are going to go down, 2 Lobas inside. Gold helmet also going on over to, I believe, Shiny throughout all of this, but that was an expensive peak there, Glitter. Reptar took 100 damage, had to use half of his cells just for running out and trying to gather information, so that's a tough break through that situation. Meanwhile, a couple weapons being swapped back and forth. Looks like they're going to try to get Shiny a little bit long range so he can continue to charge that Evo armor up, especially with Gibraltar and having that shield back on board with NRG. Winners of game number 1. Trying to put some hurting on a team that's rotating on out of the train tunnel. Meanwhile, Vaxlon is going to get a knock right there onto Hill. Hill, the new addition to his squad. Looks like he's going to be the first player potentially to get thirsted, and NRG is going to bully the team off of this high ground. This is a great spot to go and hold. You're going to be able to rotate pretty freely throughout all of this, but the pressure has to come from behind, and that's what they're aware of. They're going to go and check their back, make sure nothing fishy is happening, and then they're going to reset in terms of what they're going to be doing position-wise. But Energy is going to be big chilling over here for quite some time, and for these zones, expected to play out very slow.
Yeah, you know, I've noticed that that's just, even regardless of the zones, it's been a slower early to mid game than what we saw earlier today out of the EMEA region. NA's definitely been taking their time, really, really thoughtful, it feels like, in the fights that they're choosing to take, unless it is that end game moment where it's a complete cluster and they just have to push whatever they can. So we are seeing a little bit more time here on the front end of these games while we're watching squads get set up. But speaking of the first player getting knocked and thirsted, we are now on board with Premier GG, and you can see that Hill is being brought back right now, and it looks like they might be able to do this safely.
They also have the black market there too, so if Hill needs to pick up some loot along the way, that's going to be good for him, and I believe they were able to successfully pull this one off while they're going to be in the zone, so that's a big play coming in for Premier. Typically, you don't see that. With a lot of squads in the vicinity, they're trying to light Hill up, but Hill's going to escape with just a sliver. I mean, he only lost maybe about 15 HP throughout all of that, so good cover fire from the rest of the squad. Sentinels, they've been locking things down over here since they landed. This is their landing spot again, home court advantage. It's big to win these areas when they pull on over towards your way, and Sentinels needs to capitalize on that. Again, I was curious to see if they were going to do their old school sorting factory strategy where they go and take the middle area and then lock down the high ground and start raining down fire. Here is a little bit of a slower type of approach where they know that there's going to be a lot of teams coexisting. The kill points are going to come a little later on. And that's currently the meta right now. Getting inside the middle of the zone. If you heard our interview with Kick a little bit earlier, who took first place in the EMEA region, they were talking about how difficult it is to play the edge. And I have a feeling that when you have teams that play the edge, for example, Solo Q Goats, that's a team that loves to go and take fights. The other team that is extremely aggressive in NA would be Complexity, but they've pulled the reins back just a little bit because you go from having Caustic instead of Wraith. And Monsoon was always one of those Wraith players that would get in your face, start just causing a lot of havoc over there. Shiny's there to go and back things up. We do see Synced on Octane, which I believe is our only Octane inside of this lobby. So I'm curious to see how Built by Gamers is going to be able to rock this composition.
Yeah, you can see how many teams have already made their way into the zone there on the minimap. There's just a few stragglers over in Landslide and Staging, but most squads have at least made it into, you know, the main zone that they want to be in for now. But they're going to have to start pushing their way in, and a lot of the best positions are currently being held by the teams that got there early or that already landed there and have been holding it from the beginning. So things should start to get interesting as these teams have to collapse in on each other. As we see Built by Gamers trying to just poke, deal out a little bit of damage here into any people they see running across their path. But like we've been saying, still conservative, still just trying to play things smart, because you also just don't want to be the first team that goes out. That's just never a good look.
Not at all. And you have to sit there and watch the entire game from that death screen. Meanwhile, Tempest, one of our strong controller players, also rocking the Bloodhound as well. Love to watch this player play. One of my former teammates as well, teaming up with Wicked and Sync. I believe they qualified through the qualification process. And like you were talking about, Glitter, having to play the edge over here, you do not want to be the first team to go down. So what you're doing is you're just gatekeeping. You know that there could be potentially teams to go and rotate behind you. There's a hostile detected. Big scan happening on over towards the snake area, but you can't focus too hard over here. The zone is going to be closing in about 10 seconds. You have to worry about over towards your back. Tough spot to be, though, because you have a team over towards the snake. You're not rocking Valkyrie. You know that Complexity was locked down in the building over towards No Name once you get through that choke, too. So there's not a lot of room to work with based on where this zone's going to pull.
Yeah, they know that they're potentially pinched right now, and now it's just going to boil down to which fight do they decide they have to take. If they wait too long to make that decision, then they're just going to put themselves in a spot where there's no coming out of it on top because they'll be taking too much damage from both sides. They could try to, they might try to make the push in towards Harvester and see what they could figure out, or they could maybe try and peel off to their left and see if they could be safer over there. But we all know there's already squads in that direction as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Built by Gamers handles that situation. Back on board with NRG now, still holding this tunnel. And they seem content to do so right now. Scan does come out, and Rocker takes a little bit of damage for it. As we see Sweet laying down the portal, potentially they're setting up to get themselves pushed in a little bit closer to these squads.
I like the idea, if you're running low on cells, just, you know, go armorless. I guess that's what I'm seeing right now, is they're not too worried about it. As a big fight taking place, Rolla Theory looks like they're going to be going down. They do get the knock onto Fearless, but they've been playing phenomenal on that side, so it's crazy to see them actually take a fight throughout all of that. Lizzie, just a sliver of HP, not gonna be able to pull that one out. Renegades laying down some hurting on over towards the side. The big spray onto Fearless, and Saucer is gonna finish Fearless off. Still have a couple players left on that team, though. We'll find out if they're gonna be able to go and get that respawn, but it's just not gonna happen. Voltic gets dropped. The scan comes in from Baxlon as well. Crook stealing that kill away from Renegades. That was surprising. You see that player on the ground. That was some free KP. Unfortunately, gets taken. I believe they got the knock, though, so they could have picked up that kill point. And going back to Built by Gamers, they're kind of having an old school mentality where they're thinking a team is going to go playing the edge and pushing behind them. Well, in the Valkyrie meta, this is what a lot of the teams are electing to do. They're just going to fly right past those chokes, right past those gatekeeps inside the middle area. And that's why teams that are sitting in the middle are not worried about picking up those kill points, because they're going to come once those teams get desperate.
Yeah, and that was OXG that we were on board with for a second there with the Valk and two big boys comp that we're seeing. We'll see if that ends up working out well for them here today. But we're back on board with Built by Gamers, and they're still in this choke. still not having chosen a fight to take here. Going to be trying to hold off both these squads for as long as they possibly can. We're going to see if this works out for them as we do see the tether come out for the whatever Ash they're going up against right now. Built by Gamers is, they're feeling a little bit indecisive right now.
They're looking a little jittery. I'm curious to see what the comms are like. Let's hop into a listen-in with Built by Gamers.
Here, take 2 cells.
They've all called to the left. That means that team on the right is gonna try to look then.
Yep.
You ready?
Yeah, they're on the rock. They're on this rock. They're on this rock.
Yeah, yeah.
Trying to move up.
Nades, nades. Bad nade, bad nades.
Yep. Popping ult, popping ult.
Tether, but I'm okay.
42, perk one.
I'm okay. I have no more meds.
Okay. I'm gonna ult them, I think.
Yeah, do it.
Ulting. Do it. Good ult. Should be good ult.
Yep, we might have to walk up and clear them.
Hitting a bat, hitting a bat, hitting a bat. On her back, on her back, on her back, on her back.
You
could res me, maybe. Yeah, I'm trying to res. Just hold. They're moving up, they're moving up. Drop you back.
I think we need to...
Hitting a bat. Okay. We got
give you all kite them hard.
Okay, I'm just gonna try to push down on this guy here.
Yo,
okay,
I need to go. Bro, I need to go this way. Come to me, come to me. Come to me. I'm
trying.
Dude. We're just getting pinched, bro.
Heck, dude.
That
Tough situation.
Was rough.
That was so rough. I mean, what do you do in that area? That team was not pushing out a snake the entire time. All of a sudden, the fight takes place. You think you're A-okay. Built by Gamers. There was virtually nothing that they can do there besides Valkyrie redeploy. But guess what? They don't have Valkyrie. They had to go and use that Octane bounce pad. Even then, when you bounce pad, where are you going to go? You're most likely running into complexity on the other side. That is unlucky. Speaking of unlucky, here they go. Prodigy, Aces, Casellas, and Senpai. That's what I love about Valkyrie here, right? You could sit there and be greedy. Play the edge. Just continue to try to take fights when you need them. And then when you have to redeploy, you can. The risky part is so many teams currently coexisting inside the zone. You can see 16 squads remaining over here. We started with 19 because Benchwarmers disbanded. So it's been a very slow-paced game. But like we were talking about, zone number 4 is where all the money is made. Look at the west side of this area on the mini-map. So many teams over there. Over down towards the south side. A lot of teams still not in the zone as well. A couple of buildings that could be held, but all the gatekeeping is happening from just 2 or 3 teams inside the zone. It's about to get hairy. How does Saucer have 5 kills? He has almost every kill in the lobby right now.
Renegades have been trending upward game by game here in like this very quiet fashion, but they're doing very, very well for themselves. 5 KP already for Renegades just on Saucer is going to be huge, and you can see that they're just continuing to deal a ton of damage. And the Gibby Bibble does come out from the enemy team, but it looks like Renegades is ready to make this push. They look very, very confident. They've already dealt so much damage.
How does he have 5 kills? Well, he's not getting outshot at all. Vaxon coming through with the cleanup. That's going to be Fearless, Davis Wave, and Voltic going out. Meanwhile, they did lose 1 player. That's going to be Saucer, who's been looking so strong. It's a push coming around the side. Phony and Fury with Scissor. The 3rd party's coming in. The 4th party's coming in as well. I don't know if Pow's going to be able to survive throughout all of this. Does go for the armor swap. That is a red armor if he wants to go and get that one. Vaxon laying down the shots as well. I wasn't sure if they're going to be able to survive, but they just bullied out 2 teams. One of them is NRG.
And now they're pushing their way into Energy. I don't even know if they knew that they were going to be running into Energy in that tunnel because they take a ton of damage. 1 player is now knocked and things are not looking good. NRG, though, this is a perfect opportunity for them to get a little bit more damage out. Rocker to get his shields up where they need to be. They could really capitalize on this.
Oh, the 180 little crispy wingman shot there. The only thing that wasn't good for NRG is that they weren't able to get the loot there and try to get the armor upgrades. Meanwhile, Legacy, our team from Mexico, looking strong with the Rampage over here, trying to get some finishes and flushes onto where Complexity was holding, and Complexity somehow gets their building infiltrated on. Meanwhile, another player is coming in from behind. That's going to be Reese picking a couple of kills. Big grenade coming in from Joe Max. A lot of players are extremely weak. Just 1 HP coming in for Jaguars. The Pro FB trying to heal up. That's going to be a med kit as well. Defensive Bombardment going down. Bubble going down over towards the door. NRG still picking up kills along the way. This is just getting crazy. Like we were saying, zone number 5 that is where the magic happens, and it is continuing to put the pressure on these teams that could not get into the zone. Meanwhile, Sentinels chilling. Everything's so peaceful from their side.
Sentinels has not a single care in the world while Legacy is fighting for their lives inside of this building right now. We saw some really, really solid nades, the Thermites, the Arc Stars coming out of Legacy that did hold off that enemy squad for quite some time. And in the process, I think we saw Complexity go down. We lost a lot of squads in that 30-second, time frame. And to the fact that Legacy managed to survive at the end of it, push off the squads that were on the outside of the building. Very, very impressive. NRG has also come out on top at the end of everything with their fights. They were able to push out of the tunnel safely as well. You know, NRG always with those clean calls and calm decisions.
Woo.
And instantly they run into another team and are just lasering them from below.
Now they're chucking some Kobe's up towards the top. It's going to be Nathan trying to get some kills. I feel like we're setting ourselves up for a heavyweight boxing match here. NRG versus Sentinels. They're going to have to fight it out for first place one of these days, right? And why not have it be today? There's the flush right there onto RKN. Meanwhile, Ghost picking up some kills in your kill feed. That's going to be Era going out. Sunny and Bowser getting dropped, and that's Ghost with some big kills. Will Panners be able to get the res? Not quite sure, as two players are going to be down. Meanwhile, Knock, he's getting pushed over towards the side, towards Reptar. He gets the kill onto Reptar, has the high ground, potentially picking up a res on his teammate. And I think that's Knock rocking Wraith, which I love to see. Knock has always been one of our strongest controller Wraiths that we have in all of North America. Nade is going to connect, though. Sweet. Just doing serious damage, chucking that one like Tom Brady. And now Knock is going to have to pull off something miraculous over here. I don't think it's going to happen. Nathan just saying no.
Nathan sends with the Valkyrie, tries to at least secure them that high ground, but things are going poorly for the rest of NRG below. I don't know if they knew that Sentinels was in the building to their side this entire time. Their focus has been so set above them that it's possible they missed out on that detail. Sentinels have just been kind of waiting this entire fight out and listening to it as it goes down. And because of the damage that NRG took, it does force them to back off of Torrent, which means that Torrent will, they tried to go for the res, didn't get it, but at least Noct will stay alive above right now and still hold that position temporarily, possibly until NRG decides to go for a reset, maybe tries to push him off of it yet again. But we do have to remember, Sentinels right below, to the side of them in that building, and that could be a massive fight.
What's really exciting for Noct is he has his portal, so he could potentially portal down and get right back on over towards the high ground. And unless someone takes that portal by accident, that should be fairly safe. So I'd love to see what he's going to be able to do. The question is when does he use his Q? When does he go into the void to try to avoid the damage? Going to be a Valkyrie redeploy coming in over from the side. I believe that's going to be NRG. Sentinels, they've been, again, big chilling inside this building for a very long time. Nathan gets knocked. That could be in the air, and hello, he just drops right into the ground. That's going to be Sweet getting finished as well. 2 members of NRG, 3 members of NRG, all get eliminated just from that one redeploy.
That was, they went for the aggressive play. They wanted to get the positioning when they could, but unfortunately Sentinels was not about to let that happen, and they make sure they cleared them out as quickly as possible. Sentinels really setting themselves up for a potential victory here. You see that some squads are down to 2 members. The defense and bombardments are coming out between all the teams fighting. I think we've got Premier, we've got possibly, I think I saw maybe Noble in there. There's so many teams that are fighting it out here, and Sentinels is on the outskirts. They can clean this up.
Keep in mind, Hill is the new addition to this squad. We've seen a variety of legends being utilized by him today. He's going to be playing on Valkyrie OXG on the low ground. How are they going to get up over here? It could be a play from Kubski. Kubski and his team in the previous ALGS season had the highest average placement out of any other team. It was Team Flashpoint that they were on with an average placing of 5th place. They have not gotten that lucky so far, or that fortunate, excuse me, in the Pro League quite yet. Meanwhile, Knock, he's going to be placing that portal down like we were talking about. Hill is going to get a knock onto Farmer Lucas from the Noble squad, and Knock somehow picking up some kills along the way, picking up an armor swap. He could potentially do this, but I don't think the team is going to let him. Rakinishu flying around the corner and saying no, but at what cost? He's going to get knocked as well, and they are going to be finished as Hill is picking up some serious KP and some serious placement points for the team. But look at the high ground. Kubski puts them in a great position on the OXG side. Protectful takes a lot of damage. Sentinels, they've been playing patient. They've been playing methodical. and they're just gonna waltz in there. They just literally walked in for free. That is Sentinels at their best in terms of playing patient, a very aggressive team, and they pulled the reins back, which isn't easy to do, Glitter.
I mean, they were patient that entire game. It had to be driving them a little bit crazy, hearing all of the action going on around them. OXG in the end tried to go for that reposition with the Valken. They were able to get 2 of their members up high, but it doesn't end up working out for them in the end. Sentinels clearing everybody out below and then just waiting for OXG to come down and fall to wipe out the rest of that team. Huge game for Sentinels as far as play style goes, but because it was so passive, because it was so patient, they don't end up with a lot of kills.
You're going to get a lot of points spread across the board over here. You can see a majority of these teams inside the top 9 are going to be feeling good about what they did overall. Meanwhile, Renegades somehow in 15th place. They had 10 points because of the 9 kills. The majority of them were on Saucer. Imagine if they were able to keep that pace up. That would have been absolutely ridiculous. Could have been a record-breaking ALGS game if they were able to continue at that pace. But back-to-back wins for Sentinels. And when we looked at week number 1, round number 1, for our Pro League here, that is what Sentinels was doing. They dominated this group before. They are dominating again today. It's going to be interesting to see who is going to be that team to slow it down. Right now, my money's on NRG. The Complexity squad, these big hitters, are going to have to stop Sentinels.
Honestly, if NRG had gotten that high ground, I think that it would have ended up being, again, an NRG Sentinels top 2 type situation, because you can see their 7 KP. They were obviously aggressive. They were having very successful fights for themselves. It was just when they tried to go for that reposition, Sentinels was just lying in wait to take them out. And in the end, that was a massive play for them because they end up taking home the dub. And you could see how much work that Lou was putting in for the team this time around.
Yeah, Lou's like, come on, y'all. I have both of your damage combined. What are you guys doing? 17-11. That should play the lottery with those type of numbers as well. I really love how they just, again, played passive there. That is something Sentinels used to not do. They used to get a little bit excited, taking too many fights throughout all of that. Playing the placement, playing the end game ends up paying off huge for them. Yes, not a lot of kills, but getting that back-to-back dub, showing that they are going to defend home court is absolutely crucial. As we welcome back Kate to the desk, who's always protected home court advantage. You know, I'm sure she was really excited to see these teams go and duke it out. And another person that's stoked is Dan Gaskin. His predictions are looking good.
They are indeed. And I will say my predictions came between NRG and Sentinels, and I went with NRG, and I understand why the rest of us did too. But my goodness, Gaskin sitting there pretty, absolutely. But let's talk a little bit about team comps. It's one of my favorite things to talk about when we come into this matches 1 through 3, because that's where all of these teams say, you know what, we're going to field something different, or let's go back to the tried and true. And I think we saw a lot of both today, Tom. Particularly interesting to see Ash, and more importantly, how impactful that she has been to Sentinels in particular.
I'm going back to what Glitter was talking about, how NRG goes for this Valkyrie redeploy, but also what happened in the Thermal Station game where you see a team go and take that high ground. How nice would it have been to be able to just ash right up onto where Knock was at, go and get those finishes, take over towards that high ground, and then you can see the usefulness that's coming out from that Legend. Really unorthodox, though, for Sentinels to switch after 2 games, after winning the second game and changing their composition. That's a little unheard of, but it worked out for the better.
I mean, it absolutely did, Glitter. I mean, what was the... I mean, at this point, that's... It is... They've taken a lot of things today and really gone aggressive, but also, as you mentioned, very patient and consistent. Is this a completely different Sentinels than we're used to? And if so, what can we expect going forward? Is it anybody's game at this point?
I don't know that it's completely different. I almost feel like it's their evolved form. You know, like they always had the mechanical ability, the game sense. They were always very good at being aggressive, but now the fact that they're also kind of like maturing and willing to sit back and be patient when they need to. I mean, to get the dub with only 4 kills because they knew they were in that solid of a position. We watched them watch fights that they could have, you know, if they really wanted to YOLO in on, they could have, and they said, you know what, no, we'll deal a little bit of poke damage, we'll be a nuisance, but we're not going to go too crazy. It's just the evolution of the squad, and they're looking better and better, and honestly, I'm here for it.
Hey, and speaking of Tom, let's talk real quick Torrent. We're going to see them, I believe, coming up here in some highlights. They have definitely been a team coming back into those final circles again and again.
No doubt about it, and you love to see that from these teams that have made team changes throughout all of that as we take a look at match number 2. But I love what Glitter was talking about as Sentinels. They haven't even hit their final form yet. This is a team that when Apex started, they were looking like they were going to be the most dominant team next to TSM. They slowed down just a little bit, took a little bit of a break, and now they're coming back and really showcasing why they were so darn good. And if I'm in this lobby, I'd be concerned because you are seeing different facets of their game. That is a Sentinels that wouldn't do that in the past. They would not play that passive. Now all of a sudden they are willing to do that. And just imagine how demoralizing that is for your team. If you go and you land over towards Lava Siphon, you sit in that building the entire time. If you don't walk away with that win, that's really going to hurt your team's confidence. Sentinels was able to execute that. Not only that, the way that they're able to do it, it just looks so easy from their point of view.
I love that it looks easy. Of course, we know it is anything but. Glitter, let's talk about what Tom just mentioned, and that is zones. They have certainly been advantageous to some and not so much to others today.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit more variety today, so I appreciate that because it's giving different teams different advantages at different times, right? That's what we're hoping for. They don't know what to expect at this point, and I think that is really putting the best of the best to the test. They need to be able to deal with and have successful games in any type of a zone scenario, and right now we're seeing that out of Sentinels. We're seeing that out of Complexity. We're seeing that out of NRG. And it's not just because, they had a favorable zone. They're making every situation work and work in different ways. So I'm hoping that we continue to see this zone variety for the second half of the day because it's giving us some really interesting gameplay.
And when you look at the two games that they win, when we're looking at the highlights, Kate, it's a 3 versus 1 every single time for the win. And that's what I'm talking about, making things look easy. That is not easy to do. That's the goal, right? To make it look so fluid, to make it look like the opposite of what the screens that we saw from when it was just all, chaos in terms of the teams that were pushing on over towards Complexity's building. That comes from a lot of experience and a lot of discipline. I really feel like Sentinels is on pace to have themselves one heck of a day today.
And as we all know, they had one heck of a day, came out swinging in dominating fashion the first time that these two groups met. But let's take a look at the overall leaderboards here for these two groups. And Glitter, that looks pretty dominating to me.
They are looking so comfortable right now. I mean, are we surprised? No, because like you guys have mentioned a couple times now, last time these groups went up against each other, Sentinels were a little bit unstoppable, but for me, it really is the consistency. We're seeing some improvements out of teams that we were hoping to see improvements out of, and then we're seeing consistency out of the ones that we were hoping to get the consistency out of. This is a fantastic day of Apex so far. I'm hoping the teams can keep this up. We're seeing Premier make a big jump up the leaderboards there for themselves after this last match where they got a ton of KP on the board. OXG doing much better for themselves as well, and they are teams that definitely wanted to get some extra points on the board for themselves because they needed a little bit of a boost in the overall standings.
They sure did, and boy did they get it for sure. Tom, I'm just curious. We've got it's hard to look at now because we're in game number 3 of 6. But what are you looking forward to here in games 4 and 5, where sometimes that rubber meets the road? As you've seen, we've already had some team comp changes, which is unusual, but also fairly on board with how things work here in NA. Talk to me a little bit about, crystal ball me for a second. Game 4, match 4. What are you expecting here in the overall gameplay?
I'm looking for the two teams that are dominating Sentinels and NRG to come through, but I'm also looking at Torrent and Premier, the two teams that made roster changes. Both of them are inside the top 7, so those are my teams to watch.
Ooh, I like it. Keep those teams to watch in our own minds here. And something else to keep in mind. Registration is now open for our Challenger Circuit, and it closes December 1st, 12 p.m. Pacific time. That's Challenger Circuit number 4, December 1st. It closes at 12 p.m. And guess what? That Challenger Circuit number 4, that goes live and will take place December 4th through the 6th. See if you have what it takes to compete at the best Apex teams in the world. To register, visit battlefy.com/ALGS. And there is one thing that these teams, especially those on the bubble, especially those in the bottom 8 of our current NA overall standings, will tell you. Having people breathe down your neck. These challenger circuits, they are no joke. They are here, they've got an axe to grind, and they are certainly a pressure to be held. Tom, as a former pro yourself, I'm curious, what does that kind of a thing feel like as you enter an already scary lobby?
When they're breathing down your neck, it smells. I think they need to get some Tic Tacs or something like that, or just stop playing Caustic because how bad it stinks. But yeah, it's not fun when someone's trying to take your spot, okay? So you have to defend it, and you have to defend it now.
That's it. Done. Period. Full stop. Whatever Tom just said, I got it. Let's take a look real quick. If you want to keep up with all of our action here, and you can go ahead and follow us. We're on Twitter at PlayApexEsports, at PlayApexEsports on YouTube, and of course Twitch.tv/PlayApex. We're everywhere. We love you to be a part of it. We're here. We're excited. That's how we do. And you know what? We will be right back here in just a few moments with our next game. This is the ALGS Pro League.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Apex Legends Global Series Pro League, North America, and the action is really starting to look like it's being controlled by Sentinels right now. Back-to-back wins in game number 2 and 3, Dan, and to be honest, with the way that they're playing, it wouldn't surprise me to see a three-peat right now.
Yeah, and something that Glitter touched upon when we've had victors throughout the weeks in North America in Pro League, it has been those who have won at least 2 games of the 6. So history would suggest Sentinels are in a pretty good position to maybe take week 4 here, but there is still plenty to play, and there are still 2 teams pretty hot on their heels. As a reminder, there are only 19 teams out of 20 in this lobby after we saw Benchwarmers disbanded, so that's why you're going to see 19 teams off the drop rather than 20.
Well, NRG have had a pretty good performance so far. They're in second place overall, and one thing I wanted to just highlight as well is, I took myself over to social media for a few seconds in that breakdown. I hope I hope you're okay with that, everybody at home. But saw a little tweet coming out from Lou on Sentinels. Do you want to know what it was? What it said?
Go on, spill the beans.
Might just drop 100 points today. Yawn. That's how easy they're thinking about this lobby is for them at the moment. I love it. I love that kind of fire coming out from Sentinels.
Well, so the record is, what, 97 from Cloud9 in week 2, if my memory serves me right? Yeah, looks like it is. Sentinels hit 92 in week number 1, so they could try and surpass C9's 97 to take that top spot. That certainly would be a statement going into the rest of the weeks, and lo and behold, it's a Southern Circle. Southeast, though, we're going to be going down towards Lava City and the vault that's nearby. I think there's going to be a lot of open ground that's potential to play. Sometimes it does just finish in that open area where the lava is, but those teams in Lava Siphon are going to be alright for now as well.
Well, Sentinels are going to be very happy once again with the zone. No surprise to say that. NRG are going to have to make their way. That's not too far for them to go either. But for Sentinels, this is about as good as a zone as you could possibly ask for. They can hold out so many teams rotating in from the north, but also hold out teams rotating in from the west as well, Dan. If they get some decent positioning here, then they really could be in position to grab another huge point games. And maybe 100 points doesn't sound as crazy as it did a few moments ago.
Yeah, they've got a decision to make here. They could go for that aggression. They could go to hold out the teams and just pick up the KP, or they could look to maneuver their way down towards launch site, take that northern launch site building, which is free at the moment, hope that they beat the other team, because that's going to be one of the power positions for now. If that circle does move to where we think it's going to move, just to the east side of launch site in that open lava area, it really is one of the power plays to go for. But with the confidence that we're seeing from Sentinels, I think that they may look to look for as much kills as possible when they present themselves, but at the moment they are traversing their way towards this building that I was talking about.
Yeah, they still have the ability to hold teams out here, but they also might have just found themselves their first prey of game number 4 here. 2 more games to come after this, of course, if you're just joining us. So plenty more Apex Legends action to come. But for now, Sentinels just chilling. It looks like they just scared the team off.
Maybe the other team caught wind of the fact it was Sentinels. If you do your research, you know who's dropping where, you know who's going to come from where, but Sentinels still making life difficult for those teams who are trying to move, and it's NRG who are on the other side of things. And if there was a knock there, and they saw that in the kill feed, I tell you full well, Sentinels would have full sent that onto NRG. They are one of their closest competitors when it comes to the leaderboards right now, and it was what T2 said. We need to see someone stop Sentinels, and if anyone's going to do it, it's probably NRG.
NRG are set up in arguably the second best position. First one being taken by Sentinels, who are going to be overlooking those teams and have, first shots, we should say, on the teams who are rotating in. Sweet and Co are playing maybe for a little bit of a later game here, but still will be in position to do some damage as teams do try and rotate up to them, especially having that extreme height advantage over the teams. You saw how difficult it was for NRG to make it up that slope with just Sentinels in the perimeter, but now you've got NRG and Sentinels. I wouldn't be rotating from north to south. I would maybe take a little bit of a different route if I was one of the other teams in the lobby at the moment, especially if you had that information on board.
Yeah, certainly if you knew full well who was playing where, there would be certain areas you definitely would not want to go anywhere near of, and that's why I feel like Oxygen are stuck in between 2 of the worst positions to ever be in. Whichever way they go, they're going to walk into arguably one of the best teams in the lobby right now. And that is not going to be a fun situation whatsoever. As for NRG, they're looking to stretch their legs a little bit, gain some more information, see if there's any other positions that they could potentially take, and also gain some loot on their way. I would say that even though Sentinels have arguably the better position, there certainly are areas where Energy can move their way from their building to make a little bit more of a safer rotation once that circle does move east, if that circle's going to move east, which we imagine it will. Elsewhere, another team that can certainly do some damage to this lobby is Complexity. They are on the long old rotation, of course, and they're just getting some beacon information right now.
Yeah, Complexity have had a little bit more difficult rotation than most, moving from north to south most games, apart from the first game, of course. Let's see what the plan is here for Complexity and jump into a listen in.
Surprised if someone wasn't set playing it. But...
We want to hit balloon here?
Yeah, let's hit balloon. We probably want to just go... Do we want to go to the spot that I marked first?
I think we scout things out from, like, Siphon.
Okay, heard.
Team right there. It's climatizer.
Dodge. So we should think about ramp spot, SM spot, and then the road. Have we seen teams like hard live on the road before?
Which road?
Oh, on that rep mark?
No.
The corner? Yeah, we've played that before.
Really
people live there early?
No, they don't.
Not early, no.
Careful of our right, too.
It's just like a transitional spot, I think.
Yeah. And under bridge to stalagmites with a Valcold over is probably just like
it's like their safest. Yeah.
Down to window from here.
Safest backup.
We want to get in more and scout.
Maybe a little more.
Go a little deeper because if one of those spots are free, we need our Valcold to get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
We won't be
able
able
to run as far as we can.
TSM spot.
Yeah. We'll be able to see it from ramp spot though, and we can see ramp spot early. So we scout out ramp spot. If TSM spot's open, then we can run across. Pretty much uncontested.
Yeah.
They're
I
in the
see
middle room,
nobody
like,
ramp
shooting
spot.
at mid.
Time to hit
Nobody
it.
ramp spot.
We can get there from here, so.
I see nobody. Do you? I have a 4-8.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Sure, let's go.
Sit down.
Worst case, we just go into bridge stalagmites.
Do we hit Geyser into it, or do we... I think we have to hit Geyser into it. I think maybe better.
I think you can make it all the way there though, right?
Yeah. Okay.
We're a little closer than normal.
That's true. There's teams on our left and right. There's a team there.
Yeah,
Go,
there's
go,
go, turn around,
go,
turn around,
Geyser.
turn around,
Go,
turn around.
hit Geyser, go back.
Hit the Geyser, yep.
Geyser, go back to
Stalagmite
Stalagmites.
Yep.
Okay.
Alright, not bad.
Good job, you guys. We're good.
I need to get barrels down over here.
It could still pull to us, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's clear perimeter.
Probably doesn't, but you know.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Love that listening from Complexity, Dan. Lots of decisions being made, plan A, plan B, and a call out that I loved from Monsoon as well, using the correct term stalagmite instead of stalactite. A stalactite is an icicle-shaped formation that hangs from the ceiling of a cave, Dan, but a stalagmite is an upward growing mound of mineral deposits that are precipitated from water dropping from the floor in a cave. So he used the correct one, which I love. You know, that's great.
Don't be fooled by the illusion, everyone watching. He's definitely got Google open. I know full well. I know my mark.
How dare you? How dare you?
I know full well.
How
he
dare
was
you?
reading. I know his reading voice. He's got one of those reading voices. But yes, I was delighted to listen to that listening from Complexity, because sometimes when you get in those scenarios when you're trying to work out where to Valco and you kind of overlook the area, you scout it out, and then it goes wrong, there's usually panic. There's usually, oh, wait a minute, who's going to hit? It was just a turn around, we're fine, let's drop here, we reassess. Complete calm, comms, that's what you need from the top teams.
Can't believe he called me out on that.
I know
That's
your
my
reading
one
voice.
opportunity
I know your
to
reading voice.
seem more intelligent than I am. But also today, that's my second Google search of today, everybody. My first one was genuinely, not even lying here, what year is it? Because I couldn't remember if it was 2021 or 2022. So that's how my brain has been over this last week or so. But Complexity, they're showing that they have the grey matter working quite nicely at the moment with their rotation they've made. At the moment, it's just poke damage. We can see the next beacon information as well. So we're going to be pulling away from the launch site slightly here towards the kind of bridge area, that high ground that kind of between Lava City, or just to the south of the Vault Tunnel. So we might be finishing out in the open, maybe just on that high ground mound that we've seen a few finishes on, Dan. So that high ground towards the end game, that rock formation might be absolutely massive for teams.
Yeah, this was the one that I was speaking of earlier. This is where I kind of expected it to go. There is still a chance it could pull heavily towards Dome and really shift that way. So those teams who are banking on Dome would be very much hoping for that. But I think this is the circle a lot would be playing for in general. Just get yourself near or thereabouts that open lava area with the rocks to work with. But it's Legacy MX who have already found their home inside of Dome, and they don't have that next beacon information just yet. So they're going to have to wait a little while before they can decide how they want to plan things. But it does look like there is another team in residency here. They are not alone. They have some neighbors. So it's not just an easy wait. You have to constantly have your ears open here, making sure that you are just listening and watching all angles.
Legacy MX did actually win this zone in a previous week as well, so they don't know how to play this rotation. They don't know how to play this endgame. And at the moment, teams just scouting for information. Any information is key to your rotation, as that round is going to be closing in around 5 seconds time. Legacy MX are going to be comfortable for now, as they are inside of that next circle and won't have to traverse too far. It's the teams on the northern side here, Launch Site, Lava Siphon, who maybe don't have as much beacon information, that are going to be struggling a little bit, especially if they haven't managed to hit that third beacon.
Yeah, especially from Lava Siphon, because you've got to get past the teams who have already posted up. In Launch Site, they're going to be holding you out, and they're going to be like moving slowly towards that circle, but usually moving with their backs towards the circle, watching out and watching those teams who are pushing on in and trying to pick up some free KP. We're starting to see, though, the grenades being thrown. Legacy looks like they want to fight here.
Yeah, a bit of information coming in. Jaguars are going to have a little pop round the corner. Not going to connect with the Mastiff, though, so going to back up. But a teammate there just a bait and switch. Longbow this time going to be the weapon of choice. He tries to get some shots off, but nothing really connecting here for Legacy MX. But I like what they're doing, just trying to force this team into a difficult position and try and clear them out early. Any kind of damage is massive, but you can see that Jomax has only got a white armor to work with. The blue is down in front of him as the swap did come in, so he's going to scarper back to pick that one up. And now he can heal a little bit more comfortably. So having that little armor on the floor just gives you that bit more time if that fight doesn't quite go your way.
Yeah, both teams just beating their chest a little bit, having to flex off, seeing if they can do enough damage to initiate a fight, as Lazarus watch on from a distance now to see whether they could pick up some KP. But I think this fight is probably just going to hold off, as the next circle information will be there for them, and they can just hold tight here in Dome. You are safe, you don't have to worry about it. There may be teams that join you. We might see Valkyrie teams, you know, dive on towards Dome and play the edge of the shells here, but at the moment I think they're fine in Dome. Elsewhere we're seeing plenty of action in the kill feed. A couple of teams have gone down now, so we had 19 for all the way up to Zone 3, but now our first 2 have fallen.
I think it's SXG have fallen here. Roller Theory doing some work over here at Big Mord, and they've got to be careful of the third party, because Amaz hasn't managed to quite pop that Phoenix kit yet, and its Complexity are having a little look over the horizon, seeing if they can get a knocker, maybe create a third-party opportunity themselves, but also realizing that it wasn't there to be done. It was too risky a play, and there was too many lines of sight from those teams rotating from the north. So taking their time to recover here, just make sure they hold their spot. Don't let anyone walk up behind them that might have been shadowing them, to reassess once more. Roller Theory just picking up that loot, making sure they're healthy for that next fight, and they're going to have some moves to make as well. 1 minute 10 seconds until that zone starts to close.
And these are the games where you really need to be focusing up, because match 4 is when you can really shift your momentum for the day. You've had maybe 3 rough games, but match number 4, you know, you've got 3 more to go. If you can put yourself on a pedestal here, if you can pick up a big game, it gives you great confidence going into match 5 and 6. And also other teams will realize that you're on the ascendancy, and they will certainly want to avoid any fights with you if they see you in the kill feed. But for now, all of the teams that are slowly moving their way towards the circle here seem to be uncontested, but Roller Theory have noticed that actually someone's going to be spawning in right next to them here.
Can they get shots, though? Is that player going to be able to escape? That's the real question, and it looks like that player's managed to escape, and with 17 squads still alive, you can understand why they're not willing to overextend. If they do, all of a sudden a couple of teams get a line of sight, you find yourself down a player, and your rotation gets slowed down, everything gets slowed down, and you can find yourself in somewhat of a pickle. So for now, Roller Theory making the smart decision, as we do see that respawning player scarpering back around. And I think it was actually a player who's going to be trying to join his teammate that was the solo Prodigy Aces over at Train Station, who Roller Theory were initially trying to target. But Sentinels now on the edge of zone. Won't be safe for now, but they will if they move up onto that platform. But they're going to be pretty exposed if they don't manage to clear their backs here.
But they will have that kind of ramp area that we heard Complexity talking about, the area that Complexity wanted to go for if Sentinels managed to push up and delete the team that is already holding it down at the moment. For now, they're just watching all of the other teams that are pushing up. That team is just actually Falcon ulted down below them, and this is going to be the freest shots of their lives. Oxyeri's the first to fall, and Sentinels are able to pick up at least 1 KP if that knock is finished.
Let's jump into a listen-in with Sentinels now as they try and pick up this KP as the fight starts to break out.
So much fucking damage. Oh my god, good shit, good shit. I'm armor swapping.
I'm gun swapping, give me a second.
I bubble. I'm bubbling.
I got a bat. There's a team south, and then a team under us. They're trying to hold us out on the platform, like I said.
I ulted them. These guys are walking up over here.
They're cost-stopping us.
It's fine.
Play the back. They're just gonna
I think we might have to drop here. Stare at this right here. My red ping. Stare at this.
I'm marking it.
If you come back to me, if you need. I have bubble in 15.
I have one. Flash on one. They're getting shot. They're getting shot back.
Just chill. AFK.
There's so many arcs around.
Yeah, I know. Just come back.
He's trying to push. Push him. Give me one. Go, get the kill on him. I'm batting.
Got him. I have bubble in a second.
I might die to this.
Okay, I'm bubbling.
I'm getting in the bubble. They're pushing.
I've go back.
They're getting hard push.
Can you heal? Give me knocks. This is winnable.
Wraith one.
She's killing that. Valkyrie. That nice.
Oh
Good
my
shit,
god,
baby.
Get back. It's fine. We can't get you. We cannot get you.
On us. Team. Jump out.
New team. I'm dead. Play yourself.
That's fine.
You're insane.
Oh, my Sentinels once again winning a bubble fight in what seemed like a perilous situation. So many KP, and it looks like one player has managed to escape as well, but only for a few moments. It's Complexity who swoop in here, Dan, to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, Sentinels did so much to stay alive, but Complexity waiting in the wings. This was one of the areas they wanted to grab, and they just timed it perfectly. It looks like they might chase after this final remaining player, and they will. It's going to be the last remaining Sentinels player going down, but not without a bang. Cross taking one with him, and now Complexity somewhat exposed. The other team is looking to swoop in, so Complexity, by pushing this onto Sentinels, have left themselves in a very vulnerable situation and may go down in 13th place.
It's OXG who are looking. It's a two-man, so they might actually have a little bit more of a chance to recover here. And we heard in our ears just a moment ago as well that was actually NRG who were taken down in that fight by Sentinels. So that just shows how impressive that really was from the Sentinels squad. But now OXG are going to work their way uphill, Dan, and we know that this is a perilous trip to make. So many teams ahead of them, 11 squads still remaining, but it looks like they've actually managed to survive for now, and there's always the option to skyward dive if they can avoid the damage to the zone, but they might be a little bit close to the sun here. We'll have to see if they make it in. It looks like they're safe for now.
Safe for now as we're down to 10 squads. Astral Esports looking to the sky, seeing if they can do some damage, but they're in a pretty nice spot. They've got plenty of cover to work with. Just have to be aware of the team coming out of the vault, and they can do so much damage here with the G7 Scout, the newly improved Scout, or the nerf, depending on which way you look at it. But Astral Esports should be able to pick up some KP here.
They're going to try and move in. However, you can see Jala's having a little bit of a problem here. The player does manage to go back through the port. Pastillo managed to get one. Comes back through the port now, and the Prowler is going to be doing a huge amount of work. And Astral Esports not only will win the fight, but stay healthy as well. The armor swaps now coming, but they've got to be careful in this situation. KP, yes, but have they given up the high ground position to secure those kills? And maybe they won't be able to escape from this choke now.
Well, it's going to be the area just north of Dome, as this final circle will close. That means that all these teams are going to have to try and find a little bit of real estate. There's not going to be much available, just a few bricks, rocks to hide behind. It's all about fighting your way into the zone and doing as much damage and working as a team, making sure you're targeting and focusing the right legends at the same time. 4 kills at the moment for Amaze. 7 squads remaining. Renegades on the high ground, but they've still got quite a way to move here as well on set. I mean, this isn't going to be an easy rotation for any of these teams who are on the outside. The teams that were playing in Dome should be able to have found a little bit of an easier spot coming into this next one. We've got 10 seconds until this zone starts to move.
Renegades are holding down a pretty good spot here, but as I say, with 7 squads remaining, they can't be too hasty on their fights as Astral Esports now go in and delete the team that was down on the low ground. That's Roller Theory eliminated for now, and they avoid the defensive bombardment. There is a bubble for them to work with as well, so Astral Esports fight their way out of a tough situation, and now they're just a few inches away from that zone and calling themselves safe.
5 squads left. circle coming in. It's getting very tight here as well. But Astral Esports, they're going to be fighting from low to high, which is never fun. But other teams may engage before they do, so they should be able to get some free shots before they're spotted. There are a couple of teams that are already in the circle right now, though. They're going to be able to look in from out, and they'll be able to stop those teams from comfortably pushing in, as there are now knocks raining down through World's Edge.
Yes, the teams that have got to rotate out from Dome that were there earlier that are actually going to open things up for Astral Esports. But as I say that, Pow manages to pick up a couple of kills, but he will go down as he can't get the armor swap in time. And Ghost Gaming now call themselves King of the Hill. Scan comes in on that bubble. Hellstar in the hands here of Metro. Doesn't have a huge amount of ammo to work with. So a lot of damage might have to be done by 6 here with the Wingman. 86 shots, as well as the 8 in the chamber for him, and 3 squads remaining. Now they make their move. There's knocks coming in as well. But Astral Esports still surviving here, and the G7 Scout is doing so much work. It looks like Astral Esports will finally fall, though, as Ghost Gaming move in and pick up the pieces.
And now it's just inevitable. There's only one player remaining, just trying to hide, just trying to get a bat off. But Ghost Gaming from the top of the hill will become the champions, and it was easy as that. They just had to watch those kills unfold in front of them. And that was a tough final circle to play for those teams who were coming from the low ground. Shout out Astro Esports, they gave it a really good effort. They were still able to pick up some immense KP, but it's Ghost Gaming who come out on top.
Yeah, the KP really important for Astral Esports towards that end game, and they did a great job of holding off so many different teams. Unfortunately, just too many. It was as simple as that in that little bit of an end game there. But Sentinels, again, KP for them, taking out NRG. That little battle does continue and certainly will impact our overall leaderboards. But once again, Dan, a really interesting game, a slightly different pace in the end game to what we've seen previously, but just as exciting for everyone watching.
Yeah, I think the lower end of the leaderboard will focus there first, because Sentinels were our leaders, but their closest competitors, the likes of Complexity and NRG, they weren't able to pick up as much points as Sentinels. So Sentinels did their job. They stayed ahead of their closest competitors. That's good. At the top of the leaderboard, though, we're going to see the likes of Ghost Gaming and Lazarus really start to jump up the leaderboards here. Astral Esports, even with a 3rd place, that KP actually gives them a 2nd place, realistically, from what we've seen. A lot of teams were able to work their way into the late game, but there wasn't necessarily the KP to go alongside it, because Sentinels and Complexity had already picked up the KP in the early game. They stole it away from some of those teams who had got to the late stages.
I'm going to be interested to see what the leaderboards look like, but this is our champion squad, Ghost Gaming, and you can see the damage being done, a lot of it by Pandas on the Gibraltar. 6 doing a good job as well, no assists for him, so not the team shooter, but Metro had that one covered. 3 assists on the Bloodhound, and a traditional composition. Bloodhound still very much a viable legend in the Apex Legends Global Series, especially in those end games when you're just trying to get the information of where those teams can be.
Especially in North America. I mean, it's been the same for the last few weeks. Bloodhound has been there doing a job, and it's a very successful job as well. I mean, I personally, when I'm playing Apex, I love to have a Bloodhound on my team, or be the Bloodhound, because there's just so much information that can be gathered, not just endgame, but throughout the entirety. It makes you push so much easier when you're going towards a building, but that's how the lay of the land is then. Sentinel's still a 17-point lead, but Complexity, they will leapfrog over NRG, pushing themselves ever so slightly towards that 1st place. But I think Sentinels will be delighted with the fact that they not only took out NRG in that, but after Complexity dived on Sentinels, Complexity fell after they overextended ever so slightly, looking to get the full wipe. But it is looking tight going into match number 5. It certainly isn't won here for Sentinels, and if they want that 100 points on set, they're going to have to have some big last 2 games.
I was going to say, they set themselves up, but unfortunately didn't get the placement to go alongside it. But Ghost Gaming, the winners of that game, jumping up 9 places to 7th, which shows what a win and some KP can do for you. And with only 2 games remaining, I'm sure the likes of Torrent, Lazarus, OXG are all going to be looking to do something similar.
Yeah, I'd like to see Torrent put some more points on the board. They had a disappointing start to the ALGS, but I think they've shown a lot of promise ever since the change. And that's not to say the team wasn't good before, and that's not to say Hill wasn't a good player. He was, but he maybe just wasn't the right fit for them. Sometimes it doesn't work as a 3, but now seeing Hill still finding success on that Premier side is great as well. I always love to see new players succeeding and doing well in their new squads.
Well, it's time for us to go for a break now. We've only got 2 games remaining. Once again, the games are flying past here in North America. Game 5 just around the corner. We'll see you in just a few.
Oh yeah, we are back getting ready for game number 5. 4 games down, 2 games remain. Who's going to stop Sentinels? I'm not quite sure. They're getting a little cocky on Twitter. We see Complexity, Monsoon saying they're going to land on over them. That didn't happen in the previous game. Everyone's kind of protecting themselves. T-Squared and Glitter bringing the action. Hey, we've seen a lot of awesome games so far, but I kind of want to dive down into some math. Not really my strong suit, but I'm looking at teams like Astral right now. In 4th place, Glitter, they are 36th overall on the leaderboard. They're trying to avoid relegation, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how they're going to do.
Yeah, they've had a very, very strong performance for themselves today. I was actually thinking that after this last match, like you're saying, they are in a position where they don't want to be right now in the overall leaderboard. So these types of days, top 4 would do wonders for their overall standing score. If that's where they finish at the end of the day, we'll have to see if they're able to maintain that. But they've done a really good job of sneaking their way into the end game in any way that they possibly can to get a few extra points here and there, and it's working out well so far.
Meanwhile, 2 other teams to watch out for. That's going to be Noble and Renegades. Both these teams are inside the top 10 right now. Meanwhile, you have teams outside the top 10, like TSM, Liquid, kind of rooting against them, hoping that they don't pick up a lot of points. Right now, Noble seems to be struggling. Hopefully, they can bounce back in these final 2 games. Renegades, they're sitting right around that 5th or 6th place, so that's a decent amount of points for them. You want to try to avoid being outside of the top 10, not just in the playoffs, but also today, because that's where really you get that big point drop off. So it's going to be fun to see exactly how these teams perform under the pressure coming through. And with only 2 games remaining, you really don't have much room for error anymore.
Yeah, I'm honestly, like you said, I think I'm really looking at Renegades. They've been pretty consistent today as far as the points that we're looking for them to get. I want to see if they can maybe close out the day strong. I want to see if they can maybe add a win to the day for themselves.
I think that they can, because they've been playing pretty spot on throughout all of their skirmishes. They just have maybe 1 or 2 things that they could go and tweak. One of those was when they ended up losing one of their players and getting third-partied immediately. But either way, I think the shots are looking extremely crispy. I think the thought process is looking very nice as well. But when you have teams like Sentinels coming through and soaking up a majority of these points, it makes you kind of scramble, and you end up just fighting for whatever you can get. And right now it feels like first is a little bit far away for the rest of these teams. Meanwhile, a couple other squads like NRG kind of creeping up behind them. But a big win there from Ghost Gaming in game number 4. Shout out to Six and the rest of the squad for putting together a strong performance, even though they've had kind of a slow day to start. We'll see if they can back it up here in match number 5 as we hop in the dropship with the rest of our players over here to find out exactly how this one is going to unfold. A variety of circles so far. It's been nice to see. Sentinel's the only team so far with back-to-back wins. We'll find out if Ghost is going to be able to repeat that performance. But here we go. Game number 5 is underway, and we're on board with Ghost Game.
Penultimate game of the day, and it has been a really phenomenal day of Apex for NA so far. Ghost Gaming, starting off with them, obviously the squad that just won our last match. We're going to see how this Game 5 treats them here as we see just the standard looting coming in for the squad. And I think my question is, now that we're towards the end of the day, right? There's like 2 more games left. Are those squads that are towards the bottom, are we going to see any extra aggression out of them? And look at this zone! Look at this zone. The first thing I think of is complexity.
Survey for sure. Yeah, no doubt about it. Look at, they are owning the entire zone right now. The only team that's in the zone would be Ghost Gaming, our winners from the previous one. All of that has complexity written all over it. They have whatever building they want to go and take. I feel like Monsu's going to make the call to head back on over towards Survey, kind of where that building is that he's located at. Meanwhile, you see Trials is being taken over there by Prodigy, Aces, Casellos, and Senpai. They're going to be looting up and feeling pretty good about that situation. NRG, Sentinels, they're both going to have to rotate around the same time. Curious to see what angles that they're going to go and approach this situation, as we already see one team in the purple making their way on over towards where Ghost is. That is an extremely early rotation through all of that. The one thing you have to watch out if you're Complexity is how far Shiny is away from the team in Epicenters. Epicenter is a large POI to go and loot by yourself, especially if you're rocking the Gibby and you're feeling like you're running a little slow. But Shiny, he's going to boot his way back on over towards the rest of the team, and they're going to set up. We'll see what's going to be inside of this gold. Ooh, a gold bag plus a purple armor. I don't think it gets much better than that for Rocker.
No, that was a great little loot boost there on top. Was that a gold heavy mag as well that I saw?
Yeah.
I think that he picked
The
up.
rich get richer.
Yeah, that was a nice little area of loot for NRG in general. That's going to be massive later on in the game. But, you know, going back to complexity a little bit, I think they're just so used to having that whole area to themselves that they are very spread out when they initially drop and go for that loot. But we see that they do decide to group up relatively quickly, knowing that because of where the zone is shifting, that there's a likelihood that some of these squads are going to be making pretty early and quick rotations so they can nail down a position and hold it right off the bat. So Complexity does the same. They grew up and they're pushing as far north as they can possibly go right now.
Interesting. I thought they were going to stay inside Survey and lock down that building, which is a potential end spot, but they are more interested in finding some skirmishes. And how are you going to loot 3 POIs and only walk away with 2 blues and a gray? I'm not quite sure. Maybe that's why teams don't land back there. The loot's just not looking too hot. But there's a blue armor. Reptar's going to like that one, and hopefully they can find a scope for that rampage that they're using. Double blue armors. Okay, apparently you just land directly in that little build, or inside that little trailer there, and you're going to get really great loot. Elstar, Sentinel in hand. Did he hit that shot? I think he did. Reptar with the shots, with the Sentinel. A lot of ammo, too.
Okay, Reptar. They were just trying to make a rotation, and you had to let them know that you weren't going to make it easy on them. Nice to see the Sentinel coming out there. Crispy, crispy shots. Checking with Lazarus now. Lazarus is deciding to potentially start making their rotation out of Geyser here. They look decently looted for themselves. They're definitely going to want to find a solid position moving into the zone, because having to move through any of Fragment could potentially get messy, so they're trying to do that early so they don't have to deal with too many teams.
See if they can pick up any leftovers. Thanksgiving is around the corner over here, so they're trying to pick up any type of crumbs that are in the vicinity. And I also love the current meta that we have in terms of shotguns and just the weapon meta. We talk about the legend meta so much, but you have so many different weapons that are viable here. All of the shotguns are viable. PK seems to be the flavor of the month right now in terms of what the teams are using. It has just a little bit extra damage that the rest of the shotguns don't have. Plus, you're able to kind of hit that little wiggle behind the wall like you would with the Mastiff. But it is awesome to see the EVA 8 get a little bit of a nerf, and the rest of the teams and the rest of the players are able to pick whatever they're most comfortable with. Right now, it's going to be Wingman PK, an unforgiving combo for a dank, but if you hit your shots, you're going to be laying down some serious damage. Tough rotation, though, for Lazarus. Keep in mind, they have to go all the way on over towards that survey side where Complexity was locking down. Sentinels, not with the Sentinel, with the longbow. Just going to be crafting over here, some arts and crafts coming through. Everybody take their turn. No one get too greedy. There's enough room for all of us.
They've got the time, so they might as well craft everything they could possibly need for themselves right now. We see the armor coming through, so that Crust can hopefully get a little bit better armor there. Lou swapping things out. They're taking their time. They're getting all the loot that they could need for themselves before they make this rotation, because like I'm saying, once they have to push out of Harvester, going through Fragment in any way, shape, or form is going to get a little bit crazy. So they want to make sure they've got enough resources at their disposal, as well as the best possible armor they can get their hands on before they take those fights. And I mean, if we're going off of the tweet, they're prepared to get some big points on the board.
They are. The way that they're just like tossing armors and cells so quickly, I'd be terrified to play them in anything. As a duo, as a trio, foosball, party games, flip cup, relay races, potato bag races. I feel like Sentinels is just really good at everything that they do, and the teamwork is just on point right now for them. Back on board with a team that is inside of the top 10 in the overall standings for the accumulative leaderboard. That's going to be Noble. Today has not been their day so far, though, as Rocker and Nathan, they're going to get a knock onto a maze and a flush. It's going to be a nice kill and a nice start as they're going to find the first points of the game. Keep in mind, 19 squads because Benchwarmers disbanded. Knock, he's going to switch teams. You also are going to have Rambo on a different squad. Madness is waiting on the bench, as the Benchwarmers typically do, trying to find out where his next spot's going to be. Big shout out to Madness. I hope that he's going to be able to find a home. One of our most talented players formerly on CLG, and one of our most successful players that we've had in all of the ALGS. Renegades, big chillin' on the top epicenter over here. I'd love to see when we get round number 2 to close, if we get a big scan on zone number 3, we'll have a lot more information. But my money right now has to be on survey, and that makes me wonder what Complexity's up to.
I knew you were still thinking about complexity. Renegades, obviously, that team that we were talking about earlier, looking to see if they can get a win on the day. They've had a very consistent showing so far. So we're going to have to check back in with them later and see how that's going for them. Lazarus, you see Lazarus doing some crafting themselves, trying to get their loot set up and ready to go before they push out of here and into the city. I mean, Epicenter being held right now is kind of clutch. I'm hoping that the position pays off for Renegades, because the likes of teams like Lazarus that are over here in Overlook, or any of the squads that have to come up from the south potentially will be running right into the crosshairs of Renegades, and that's exactly what they're hoping for.
The good thing for Lazarus, they got second place in the previous game, but they have double rotations, right? Dank's going to be able to redeploy with the Skyward Dive. You're going to have P-Fitter over there with the portal if they need to go and use that one, and it's been exciting to see again all these different compositions, as we do have another hard pull over towards that survey side. So you can see teams already coexisting. 3 buildings are already going to be taken inside there. You have another team that's sitting on the very north-hand side across from the train tracks, which is a power position that we've seen a lot of our top teams go and lock down. TSM loves that spot. Complexity is a team that will go and rock that area as well. I wouldn't be surprised if the 3 players in white would be Complexity. Meanwhile, you have another team that is in the Climatizer area in purple. So a lot of real estate already been taken over there. A lot of the buildings have already been taken. A majority of that fighting, though, that you can see is happening on the south-hand side. So maybe that's going to be a good spot for Renegades to lock down like you were talking about. Hopefully they have some long-range weapons that they can pick the players across the map.
We'll have to see how that works out, whether or not it goes in their favor. Lazarus making their Valk rotate right now, taking a couple shots in the air while they do that, but hopefully should be able to land safe and sound right on the inside of the edge of that first zone. So they at least got the majority of their movement out of the way, and now they can figure out how they want to handle their continued push into the zone from here. But, I mean, we have seen time and time again just how important the utility of that Valk rotate is, and that just kind of makes me think of going all the way back to game, I don't even know at this point, game 2 or 3, built by gamers. They still had the Octane, and that was something we talked about at the beginning of the day, where we were questioning the utility of Octane. Just after the nerf, is he really going to even be used? And they had the Octane and only had the jump pad at their disposal when they tried to make their rotate, and we saw what a hindrance that ended up being.
Yeah, that had to be game 3, if I'm not mistaken. And when you talk about that, a lot of times people think, oh, well, if I'm the only legend in this lobby, that will give me a little bit of an advantage going forward. Well, that's not the case with the nerfs that have recently happened to Octane. I wouldn't be surprised to see Built by Gamers make some sort of adjustments maybe between now and then. With the holidays coming up too, could be a good time to reevaluate exactly what you're thinking in terms of composition. Also, we are at the halfway point, right? We're in round number 4. There's 6 rounds overall before the cutoff in terms of which teams are making the playoffs. So if you're not getting it done by round number 4, you're definitely going to make changes going into round number 5 and 6. NRG, this is what you see typically when teams are in first place, trying to win it out in game number 6. Laying low, sitting on the edge of Skyhook, trying to make the rotation in. And it's going to be a slow and late rotation. This is what we've seen a handful of times based on where the zone's coming from. Slow round number 1 and 2, almost no fighting taking place overall. So number 4 and 5, absolutely crazy, where you will see a handful of these teams go down. Senox, he's sending it with the Ash. They're going to portal up on towards the top hand side. And also get rid of that crypto drone as well. They don't get scanned, and they're going to be a-okay inside of this zone. So 2 similar play styles coming in from Sentinels and from NRG. Take note how they are not going to push in past the edge. They're going to try to stay on over towards the edge to make sure that they don't get sandwiched.
Yeah, but the real question is, will Renegade spot them out on this rotation and be able to deal some damage down? When we last saw Renegades, they did still have at least 1 white shield on one of their players. So they will probably take any opportunity to deal a little bit additional damage that they can get. But Sentinel seems to be in an engagement with a totally different squad, unbeknownst to them, while Renegade is sitting on the top of Epicenter. This could be a little bit dangerous for Sentinels.
It's an ambush. They're setting it up. NRG is going to go down and take down Wazizzy, and I believe that they're looking for the rest of that squad as well, so it's time to dip out. If you see NRG chasing you, you have to run as fast as possible. But Sentinels, this is what we've seen from them a handful of different times. You look at them, they're calm, cool, and collected. They're big chillin'. Sweet's gonna finish off a maze, and there's just one more player left on that team. So really nice job picking up the first kills for NRG. Sentinels, now you can see they're being a little bit more active. Now that they see that in the kill feed, they're peeking a little bit more. They're focusing the team across from them. They know that their back's gonna be clear, so this is a good situation. But everybody knows that round number 3, chunks. You're not able to sit in the zone like you are in zone number 1 and 2 and out heal that one. This time, they're gonna have to make some sort of play to move forward. We'll find out exactly what that's going to be in about a minute and 30 seconds. Lou taking a handful of damage, though. It's going to force out the bubble and force them back off the high ground inside here.
I'm really worried that their choice of rotation is going to put them right into the hands of Renegades. Unless Renegades have moved off that spot, we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Complexity still holding their spot in the north, and it looks like they were that squad when we were looking at the map top down. That was those white markers on the map. They are holding the little train cars up here, and they seem to be quite comfortable. They haven't even remotely moved off, so we'll see what they have planned strategy-wise.
Looks pretty cozy back there, to be honest. They're going to maybe need a heated blanket, though, for all the snow. Could get a little bit cold back there in general. But NRG, they, again, pick up the first kills of the game. Haven't gotten the full squad wipe yet. Now looking for another skirmish on over towards the side. Great shots there with the flatline 2-4x, something that you like to see. As Sentinel's also going to pick up a kill onto, I believe that's one of the players from Legacy. That's going to be Jaguars going down, and Sweet now looking for some more blood over towards this backhand side, where we see a lot of zones will actually end back here, but not this one. More or less can pull over towards that Complexity side. The aggression, the confidence. Sweet coming through with the knock onto Davis Wade. That's going to be Fearless getting dropped as well. Voltic, the last player to get knocked, and that's what you love to see if you're an NRG fan. Just nobody getting knocked on your squad, barely taking any damage, and making that look as easy as possible.
Yeah, that was an aggressive push. As soon as they saw even the littlest bit of damage that they were able to deal onto that team, they decided that they were going to go for the KP and make it count, picking up some more points for themselves, but also doing it so quickly that I think they only grabbed the attention of one team, and that might be the Complexity squad that's just chilling here up north. So still a really, really smart engagement. Now we're going to have to see if they decide to kind of just poke at each other and keep each other off of their area right now, or if NRG's looking like they might want to go in for it.
Reptar getting a knock there onto Sweet. It's going to be the Sentinel. We saw him putting in some serious work with that one before. Now Complexity understands the assignment. They're going to go and push this one. Thermite inside of the hands. Reptar now looking. Oh, he gets Nathan in the air. Ridiculous shots from Reptar. Someone stop him.
Oh man, he is feeling good with the Sentinel right now. That was a massive, massive fight for Complexity, taking out NRG, still having their spot to back off to and holding it cleanly. I mean, they just took one of the heaviest hitters out of this lobby, and they've had this zone since the beginning. This is their comfort area, so this could be Complexity's game if they continue to play this way.
And if it's not the Team Sentinels, it's going to be the Sentinel no matter what. Speaking of Sentinels, let's go ahead and hop in and listen in and see how they're going to approach getting into zone number 4.
Speaking the door, I'll shoot for you. Just look for slots. Like, I don't know.
We have to slide down. We have to slide down.
We play the fence.
Okay, well, all right. I know what we do. I know exactly what we do. Okay, we look on our back right now and make sure you anchor Adam. I'm gonna stare at our back right now and make sure that no one pulls up, right? And then we play the roof of their building late, and then we walk down or see what move based off them. Does that make sense?
My ping is pretty good. This little tower late, it should be pretty good. This rock as well.
Still top heavy, by the way.
Yeah, if we fight this team with the building for this rock, we'll be in like God spot.
Yeah. That's what I want to do. Yeah, I do.
Okay, perfect. We just take their roof and fucking shit on them.
Yeah, we're
I could even TPS into the top of the rock.
I think there's not. I don't think there's a.
Could you come scan them? They're not.
Do we have nades? Do we have nades? Can we take the rock and just spam them in when they're in the?
I don't have any more nades. No.
No, they're just hard riding in there.
I mean, like, well, they're gonna be stuck at the front if we have nades. But...
I don't have any nades. No nades.
I don't have any nades.
Sucks.
Where's? Oh fuck, bro. They're starting to peek a little bit.
Okay, I'm grabbing nades right now. I'm grabbing nades.
Okay, hurry up. 10 seconds. We gotta get up to the roof soon. They're gonna hold us.
I just need to look down here. You guys need to focus on everything else. Team moves right here.
Man, there's gonna be a bunch of teams running up the hill to fucking try to third us.
Yeah. That's why we need to focus them and make sure they go left.
Yeah, zone's closing.
Keep watching that door. I'm gonna peek left.
He's peeking. Right there's blue. We getting on the roof soon or what?
Yeah. Make sure all the teams go behind us. Go fucking.
Oh, give you one in the field there.
Look at the zone right here. These motherfuckers died to ring.
I'm walking up a little bit. We have to. There's a team just landed in front of them.
Okay. Chill on the backside. They're gonna fight them. I'm gonna ulti over on the other side so that they have to fucking go in the building.
I'm charging.
Last case scenario, we slide down.
I can TP that.
Slide down.
I'm gonna get hit by a meatball. Yeah, I got hit.
It's fine. Just straight come down to me.
I can TP us back up to third. Just stay near me.
You see this?
Yep. You wanna go there? It's ending down there. Do you wanna go?
Scan this. Scan above.
Yeah, scan it.
Go. Fight this.
Pretty close. Give me that.
Chill. There's a whole team of 3 inside. Thirst, they're gonna take the beast.
Give me that. 2 dead.
Okay. I gotta fucking chill.
Chill.
55 on him. I know we gotta fight. It's just one guy. Nice.
Get him. Hold him. Armor swap on the ground. Solar ray. Oh,
nice. Good shit.
I took the armor.
Grab his armor. Oh, okay. I'm batting.
Are you kidding me? The way that they just made that work, they let some squads take each other out. The comms, even though they sounded hectic, were so clear and everyone listened when the decision was made. I think that was the biggest part. They were going to go slide down. They were going to do it together as a squad. And that was so impressive coming out of Sentinels.
I saw a lot of impressive things. I think the best part was that I just got hit by a meatball. We all know what that means. That's the Gibraltar defensive bombardment coming down, hitting for 100 onto Senox. But look at the shots. Look at the discipline, the teamwork. Sentinels, they're on a mission right now, and they are looking so strong. Another knock right there onto Renegades. That's going to be Vaxlon going down. Pao, though, finishing off Kupski, Protectful, and Ambino throughout all of that. That's going to be Premier going down, and just they don't stop. They are non-stop right now. We heard the communication. They are calling out every little thing that they are doing, and nobody looks like they are interested in stopping them. Maybe it's going to be Complexity. Could be Reptar with the Sentinel. He's been looking fairly strong with that one, and they do have the zone to work with over here, but they're on the low ground. Everyone knows high ground is king throughout all of these situations. Shiny trying to lay down some shots with the Rampage and the 1-2x, but Sentinels has mopped so much of this lobby already. I would be concerned if I was any other team.
Any squad that was coming in from the southern edge with Sentinels pretty much got cleaned up by Sentinels, or Sentinels allowed them to clean each other up by taking that fight, and then Sentinels coming in for the third party right at the end. It was incredibly clean. But now we talked about it. Complexity's been in a solid spot this entire game. They've been pushing back any single squad that came into their general vicinity, and now it's going to come down to 4 squads, Complexity and Sentinels being 2 of them. Era, the third team here, and they've got some space inside this building. They still have a little bit of room to rotate out when they need to, when the zone closes in, but that's going to be happening very soon, so they're going to have to decide how they want to handle that push.
I love how the zones close extremely slow. Keep in mind, a couple of seasons ago, that zone would collapse so fast. Now you get an opportunity to make a lot more outplays. So there's a couple of things that you can do. You can lay low key. Sentinels is doing that right now. You could also try to have a major presence on the map to try to force teams on over towards each other. But Senox with the big gun. It's the Kraber in hand, 4 bullets, and the PK, an absolute psycho combo. But if you're going to rock it, might as well rocket in style, and that's exactly what Sentinels has been doing throughout this entire time. Look at that arc star. It looks so deadly.
We see all the teams looking at Sentinels trying to deal some damage. The real question is going to be, did he stick that? He did! What?
I'm just looking at that arc star. Just looking at it in his hand, it looks a little bit stronger than other arc stars I've seen from the past. We're going to have to get that one looked at when it's all said and done, but I'd be terrified to push right now. You are absolutely screwed coming out of that door. There's thermites there. There's Senox already pre-scoping. He's tossing out Qs left and right. He almost lines up the 2-4 as well. The 2-for-1 not going to land as they force them out on over towards the other side. Meanwhile, Nox Gas Grenade is going to force Complexity to go and use their bubble. That's not good because that's not going to come up for another 25 seconds. Fortunately for them, defensive environments are going to be going down. Bubbles are going to be used over towards the other side. But now it's not looking good. It's Shiny. He's going to eat it. Monsoon should be next. It looks like it's all up to Reptar, and he's going to go for that redeploy. Gets dropped on over towards the side. That's going to be Stunny coming through and saying no. You have defensive bombardment in hand as well if you want to use that one if you're Oxy Ares. But it looks like they are just saving that one for the final fight over here as we have a fresh 3-on-3-on-3.
Era used that side, the one little area in the doorway they had to get out, and they were able to clean up on Complexity there. 3 squads left. Premier GG is the 3rd squad here, and they look very, very healthy. They might be able to actually put some serious damages. Top-down view, we do see one of the bubbles coming out. Sentinels trying to make a push in on Premier. Who's gonna make the first push here?
Mobile respawn beacon being called so they can use a little bit more leverage in terms of having some head glitches. You can see all of the players trying to utilize the map to the full advantage. They're trying to force these two teams on over towards each other, and you can see the value of Crust with the scans, making sure that nobody else is making some sort of sneaky play. One shot in the Kraber, that's as cocky as it gets there, and he does connect, and it hits onto Sunny. That's what you love to see from Sentinels. Can they finish this off, though? It's not looking good. Xenox versus the world. Xenox with the PK. He's trying whatever he can. Dip, dodge, diving, portaling all over the place. Maybe he's forcing them outside the ring. You don't even know what's going on at this place. How does he, Premier, though, is going to take the win? That was just as hectic as it gets better.
Oh my, I thought for a split second that somehow Sentinels were going to be able to juke all of the action, that Xenox was going to get it there at the end, but Premier ends up coming out on top, and we were talking about the teams that we wanted to see have a strong performance. Premier definitely falls into that category, so huge win for Premier.
And you have to feel good if you're Hill there. It's your first tournament here with the new squad. You pick up your win in game number 5. We'll find out exactly how many points that was for them. 19, but not to be overshadowed by Sentinels with 23 coming in with another monster game over here. Just imagine if they finished that game out, Glitter. It would have been 17 kills plus the extra 3 placement points. We were almost looking at a 30 bomb from Sentinels. But either way, you got to give credit to Premier GG. New squad coming in refreshed over here. Hill fitting in, and they're going to be taking first place. I believe you replaced Hambino on the squad, so it seems to be working out for them in the meantime. Meanwhile, going back to other teams that we've been talking about, a handful overall. NRG, they picked up 6 kills, but they went out in 16th place, so they didn't get any placement points. Ghost Gaming, the winners from game number 4, 15th. Astral Esports slowing down just a little bit, so I'm hoping that they can pick it back up because, again, they're another team that's facing the relegation. They're trying to make their way up that leaderboard and avoid that one. And Renegades, we've been talking about them consistently inside that top 5. Another strong performance from them.
Hold on. Complexity only had 3 kills. Did you see the 3 kills that they got on NRG? They didn't get any other kills past that somehow, even though with all the damage we saw coming out of Reptar, they only had 3 kills on there.
They were the most impressive 3 kills, though, and style points matter. I'm going to give them the style, second in style overall next to Sentinels, who is just straight swagging on everybody when it's all said and done. But look at that. It's not about the damage. It's not about the kills. It's about the damage here. Almost 2K damage coming in from Crook. That's almost twice as much as both of his teammates combined. So Crook really feeling himself in that game. And again, Hill, the new addition to this team. Ronnie, who's been playing a handful of different legends throughout his career. Started off on Wraith, going on over to Loba now. It's so exciting seeing all these different compositions that are moving forward. One person I know that loves compositions, that's going to be Kate. Let's welcome her back on to the desk. Kate, game number 5, did it live up to the hype or what?
OMG, it did indeed, especially if you were a Sentinels fan. Gaskin, excuse me, that was a weird thing for me to do just there. And you know what? Let's talk about that because it is the elephant in the room. This is a team that seemingly cannot be stopped. However, they sometimes don't get that W, but they do get those KPs. So let's be clear, Sentinels definitely the one to beat. Let's ask you this question, though, Tom, as we take a look at our highlights through games 4 and 5, because, of course, this is where the cookie crumbles, right? So they're unstoppable, seemingly. Many teams have tried. You have succeeded slowing that momentum. As we take a look at these highlights of some of these incredible teams that they've been up against in this lobby, Tom, I want to know what strat, what team comp, what do you think will ultimately or has worked to take them down? And when I say that, I ask, how do teams get Sentinels to overextend?
I really think that all the other teams should be looking at the communication that is taking place because you can see just based on the highlights here, there's not a lot of missed shots, right? Everyone's positioning themselves fairly well. Everyone's hitting their shots. There's a lot of great mechanics and micro and macroing that's happening back and forth. but there's just a huge differential in terms of the checklist and thought process that a team like Sentinels is putting together, a team like NRG, for example. And you can only communicate if you know exactly what you're doing. Otherwise, you're just, running around like a chicken with your head cut off. So I think that's the most impressive thing that the other teams, if they want to keep up, if they want to take a note out of the page, it's not more or less about the strategy, it's about the communication. And that can only happen, again, if you've practiced enough to go through those motions.
Oh man, I love that breakdown, Tom. That's exactly what I was looking for. And I think now Glitter, as we saw, Ghost Gaming came out on top in match number 4. And I will say that was an interesting match because you had Sentinels, NRG, and Complexity all out early, and it made it feel like the lobby was just that little bit better situated for a team like Ghost to come in for that W.
Right? I mean, you have to take advantage of those opportunities. How many times have we seen, even in a game where those names that you're talking about, those heavy hitters, even if they're not getting the win, they're those point sponges, right? We see in this game in particular, NRG goes out with literally 0 placement points and somehow still gets 6 KP on the board, which some teams will struggle to get at any given moment. But that's the norm for the likes of NRG, Sentinels, the Complexities. So when they get taken out early, that is that prime opportunity for any of those teams that need to get some extra points, especially when it comes to the overall. They have to take advantage of that because those are very few and far between opportunities, because the likelihood is that at least one of those, top 3, they're still going to be alive towards the end.
Well, speaking of the end, let's take a look at the second to last leaderboard of the day here. Again, this is North America B versus C, the double part of our round robin. Oh, that took my breath away. Oh my gosh.
They weren't joking. They weren't joking, y'all. They are going for 100. And we don't have James here, but one of the things I love, James said, I want to see them break the graphic, okay? Who knows what happens once you get over 100? It's like the Y2K Millennium bug, okay? We're not quite sure if the servers are going to crash, if Sentinels is just going to break all of Apex with how good they are, because that's what it's looking like right now and the way that they're able to approach these situations. But holy cow, we have to talk about Reptar and that clip that he had with the Sentinel there. He snipes the Valkyrie out of the air. They only had 3 kills, and it was just the best 3 kills of the entire day coming in from Reptar. Just loved the way that he used the Sentinel.
I mean,
yeah.
Poetry in motion.
I mean, it was. That's why I was so confused when we saw it at the end that they somehow only had those 3 kills, because we saw a lot of knocks coming out of Reptar with that weapon, and it just generally we were seeing the Complexity names on the board, but they were just not able to clean up on those kills. But also shout out to Premier with that game that really jumped them up the daily leaderboard, and that's huge for them.
Absolutely. And of course, as we all know, as I mentioned, we're in that double round robin format. This is the double part of that. These teams have met once again, and you know what? I'm going to give it to Dan Gaskin once again here on the predictions for this team. It's something that I went back and forth on for my own talent prediction. We talked about it before we came on air. It was NRG versus Sentinels. The rest of us went with NRG. Gaskin went with Sentinels. Sentinels, the last time they came into this lobby, this exact lobby, come out swinging round number 1. What did they get? 92 points. Tom, it sounds like if we're using that math correct, that is exactly what they're going for, breaking that graphic into the triple digits. And more importantly, at this point, it seems like they can do this.
Yeah, I think they're trying to break their own record, and that's things that you love to see. And who knows what happens in this final game, but they've set themselves up for success so much that this is basically a victory lap from them. They can just go for the no-scopes. They can go for the Kraber shots. We saw how Senox was just laying in with 1 Kraber bullet. He's in a box looting. Says, you know what? I'm not going to drop this Kraber. I have the PK in back. I'm going to go and use this one. Connects on the shot onto Era, completely ruins and griefs their game, and then almost takes it to them in that final fight there. What a performance coming in from Sentinels. And Gaskin, he's making gains, okay? He's making gains on the talent leaderboard and in real life.
There it is. Absolutely. Well, hey, speaking of gains, we'll segue into this. You can enter Lenovo Legion's ALGS Pro League giveaway for a chance to win a free Lenovo Legion gaming PC. Simply visit twitter.com/Lenovo Legion. Definitely something to check out for sure. And of course, we'll be talking a lot more about those weapon comps a little bit later. Tom, I love that you mentioned that earlier on in this match. But I need you both to look in your crystal balls here and say, okay, game number 6. We know Sentinels are doing what they're doing. Glitter, I want to know anybody else. Who else is coming in at number 2? Is it Complexity? Is it NRG? Is it someone we haven't even thought of?
I'm thinking, and it's totally not because I predicted them or anything, but I'm thinking that NRG is mad that they were on a 6 KP game and Complexity took them out before they can get some placement points, and they might come back with a vengeance.
Vengeance is always good. Tom?
Looking into the crystal ball, and I see the Eye of Modor. No, I don't. I think I see Sentinels going for 100 points. I wouldn't have it any other way. I want Sentinels to come through, and I want to see some more Kraber shots, and I'm voting for Reptar to grab the Sentinel again.
Okay.
And there it is, folks. There it is. Well, keep it up with us all throughout, not just our tournament play, but in between these matches. And that means you can follow us on all the socials, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. We're all there. It's all right on your screen. Give us a free follow, free sub. Don't you worry, it's going to have some fun. But guess what? We are just moments away from our final game. Will Sentinels break the 3-digit streak? Will another team come out on top in number 2? Because it's math. We'll find out in just a few minutes. Stick around. This is the ALGS Pro League.
Welcome back to the final game of the day here in the Apex Legends Global Series North American Pro League. Dan, it's been an interesting day for sure, but there's one story that I'm sure everybody wants to know how it ends up, and that is, can Sentinels raise their bat, put up 100, a century, cricket references already for everybody watching. North America, maybe not the best of crowds to bring it to, but 100 points in one day of action is very much on the cards here. They only need 20 points to bring up 3 figures. That would be astronomical.
I mean, the victory is pretty much already in the bag. And I'd like to remind everyone, the talent predictions, everyone went for NRG except me, who went for Sentinels. So I'll have a smile on my face this whole game as they push for 100 points. I'd love to see them do it. I'd love them to overtake the 97 that Cloud9 were able to achieve on week number 2. But they still have to get through a lot of teams who are going to be fighting desperately for points here on set. Because it's all well and good talking about who wins the group, but there's still ALGS Pro League points available for so many of these teams, and it could make or break their season.
Oh, 100%. It's not just the qualification spots, remember. It's not just top 10 in North America. The relegation spots are still there as well. And for those teams that are on the cusp, they don't want to go through that Challenger circuit. They don't want to go into those relegation games and have to battle their way back into Pro League for next season. So for every single player and every single team in the lobby, so much still to fight for. And we're going back to the north, Dan. I love to see it. We're going over towards Overlook. We're taking ourselves to the northeast side of World's Edge, and you can see that's going to be a pretty good zone for the likes of Complexity, a good zone for the likes of Torrent, and to be honest with you, probably a good zone for Sentinels, because at the moment it doesn't matter where it goes.
Yeah, see, Apex has been a bit like me, really, just avoiding the north in general. But for now, it seems like in North America, it's okay to go up to the north, because there's been, what, 3-4 zones we've had northern? So this has been a much better variety when it comes to zones. It's allowed teams to experiment their rotations and really demonstrate how they play the game, no matter where that zone is pulling. For Sentinels, they are going to have a longer rotation than they had previously in some games, with the zone pulling very close to them. But I think that's just going to play into their hands more, if I'm honest. They want to hunt for kills. They want to go for that big 100. We've already seen the tweet. They have all but secured the victory here in this week. Despite for something, I don't know, it would be a surprise result if they were to go out in like 19th, get no points, and then second place were to get a 35 bomb. That might just, you know, turn it around. But I can't see Sentinels going out without at least a few KP to work with here.
And one thing I've loved about today as well that I think has also played into the hand of Sentinels a little bit is the prevalence of the Peacekeeper coming back into the meta for the shotguns, because, you know, the EVA 8 was something that obviously they had success with before, but it was so dominant that, you know, the other shotguns kind of got left to the side a little bit. But the PK now is, in my opinion, the strongest of the shotguns. It's a risk-reward gun, as we all know. You hit your shots, you look great, you do 60 to 100 damage, and you look like an absolute boss. But if you miss, that longer reload time and the longer sort of shots between when you do press the trigger, it does leave you a little bit vulnerable. For Sentinels, with the mechanical ability they have in those bubble fights, the Peacekeeper has been a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, I think Peacekeeper, Mastiff, I think seeing them both being used more than the EVA 8 makes me personally happy. I've always thought the EVA 8 was a bit spammy, and even though there was some skill behind it, certainly single-shot weapons, I will think there's going to be a bit more skill in general. But the shotgun meta is certainly in a healthy place right now, one of the healthiest it's been in quite some time, and it has certainly been a joy to watch. But 19 squads still remaining. Of course, 19 only in this lobby. Benchwarmers disbanded, so that 20th team and that 20th spot is not dropping onto World's Edge. But with the final game, there is a lot to play for with a lot of these teams, especially on the lower side. I think that Complexity, they'll still be pushing for the top 2 finish. They are in second at the moment, but Premier GG are right hot on their heels. And what a story it is for Hill as well, joining Premier and
super happy
being
for him.
in 3rd place right now. It's so difficult when, if you get dropped from a team or if you leave from a team, whatever happens, but then to perform so successfully on your new team, that's going to be one of the best feelings. He'll be on top of the world.
Well, good news here for Mr. Taylor, or Tom. I don't know why I've called him Mr. Taylor. I've never called him that.
Formal.
Tom T Squared, isn't it? It feels like I'm writing him a letter. It's going to be Reptar, who has that Sentinel in his hands again, so he might be able to do some big damage. NRG making their way from staging now to see if they could get some more beacon information, maybe hit before they make their next move as well. But they might be on the hunt for some KP as well here, Dan. They'll want to try and put pressure onto Sentinels. They don't want to leave this, you know, the story being all about Sentinels today. NRG want to upset Sentinels. NRG want to take them out of the game, and they want to make it as tight as possible.
Yeah, and NRG will want to push their way up to, you know, top 2, at least, minimum. Because they're, what, 39 points behind Sentinels, so let's be real. They're not going to catch Sentinels.
It ain't happening, is it?
30,
it's
like,
not happening.
Even if they had the best game of their lives, it's not going to happen. Complexity, they're 32 points behind Sentinels. That is somewhat doable, but still, I think it's a bit of a stretch. But what NRG can do is they can catch Complexity. They're 7 points short of Complexity, 6 points short of Premier. So top 3, top 2 is definitely achievable. They will want KP here, but they will also be playing it safe, try and get some placement points to ensure they pick up more Pro League.
Here comes a aggressive push, and the PK once again having a say in this battle. 86-54, add them all up, but here is Sentinels. What's the one team you don't want to be pushing? It's Sentinels. And I don't care who you are, the road to 100 has started in the best possible way here for Sentinels. They pick up 3 KP. None of them got downed. They're all still healthy. They didn't have to armor swap down. They can just heal. It's quicker almost for them.
We're on to 83. We're 17 short of 100 now.
You're keeping track of that, by the way. I'm not being responsible for that.
We will keep track of it as best as we can. I mean, just a win alongside these KPs would have them 5 points short of that 100 mark now. So all they would need is what? So 8 kills plus a victory. So, you know, it's not far off, and it is definitely achievable. Definitely achievable.
Maybe jumping on the replicator for now. Just getting some extra supplies before they make their way forward. But once again, it's just the Sentinel show. Every time a bubble goes down, I just feel like they know they're going to win the fight. I've never seen a team as confident as Sentinels going inside of a bubble, whether it's theirs or an opponent's. They just don't care. It's, you know, cover for them to play around. The mechanical skill of Senox and Lou, I really feel does stand out. And Crossed as well, man. I mean, we're talking about Senox and Lou, right? But Crossed is absolutely ridiculous as well. All 3 players, it's difficult to really, you know, put a marker between them about who is better in those bubble fights and who is better mechanically overall. I'm sure they argue among themselves a little bit. They're a competitive bunch, Sentinels.
It's also difficult to believe that when they moved from that week 1, where they had an amazing week, 92 points, and then week 2, they dropped to 23 points. And it does show that these groups differ hugely. We are in a lobby where some of these teams, I think T2 said off air, they're just not really keeping up with some of the better teams that we have in these lobbies, and he's completely right. Yeah. And it goes to show that when you look over towards some of the other groups, there are some teams that can contest with the likes of Sentinels, the likes of NRG, and Sentinels seem to flourish in a lobby full of teams where they can kind of beat on, they can bully, but when there are more teams that can match them at that level, they drop off ever so slightly. So they need to find that same confidence that they're finding in a lobby like today when we get to, you know, those big serious matches, when we get to playoffs and when we get to LANs. I want to see this Sentinels playing. Sentinels who are oozing confidence, not scared of fights, and they will push everything and anything that gets in their way.
Well, let's see what NRG are up to now as they make their rotation. We've got a listening ready, so let's jump into the comms.
Nice.
Good.
Those James guys, are those guys anywhere near us? They're not too far behind, probably. They've done well a few games.
Do we want to hit beacon?
Yeah, may as well. Yeah, it's just that zone. Fight for like the north side.
No Bob.
Here, mate. They're below the ridge, though.
No bubble, no bubble.
Give me purple.
Walking up on the
Popping about, popping about, popping about. They're challenging somewhere near you. Maybe wrapping your right.
Yeah, they are.
They're far. They're far.
One is blue. I'm 30. Give me ulted. I'm backing up.
Yeah, I have the backside. I'm like across the street.
I might be in a bad. I think I'm fine now.
What has a gold? Alright, far. I'm popping.
I can't see.
He's on the tipping the building.
I'm fine.
Is that Ash? Yeah. Just wrap down.
Yeah, just go down. We should just go down into survey right now. This isn't a good fight for us.
Team acceleration got us.
Yeah. Get into the close building and reset. Interesting.
So NRG continue on their rotation. They very much avoid that fight, and for good reason. We saw Premier GG eliminating the kill feed just before we jumped into that listening. They are the one team ahead, or one of the teams that NRG are chasing right now. So they're 7 points behind Premier, and they very much will be able to make that up with Premier being eliminated. That is bad news for PGG.
Bad news for PGG, but as you say, great news for NRG. We see that next circle going as well, and we're going to be going even further to the west here. So it's going to be those rocks where we're going to be ending up in our final game of the day. So elevation is going to be so vital to take early on, well, as early as you can, because fighting towards that elevation is going to be extremely difficult towards the end game. The redeploy coming in now from NRG. They have managed to overtake one team on this rotation as well. However, taking a little bit of damage through the skies as the emotes are going to get hit, just to make sure that they're as difficult a target as physically possible. Something to certainly note if you're a Valkyrie player, to tell your teammates if you're playing in ranks, just hit those emotes and make sure that you're spinning around in the air and you're making yourself as difficult a target as possible. But they're going to be taking the gondolas over as Sentinels now inside of the next zone. But they look like they're on the hunt at the moment, Dan. It looks like maybe 100 points is something they want, almost as much as anyone is unlucky. Well, they're getting in a little bit of a battle here. Both bubbles are going to go down after the initial damage. Prodigy Ace is inside that bubble, and they're trying to get aggressive here. PK in hand. Castellos manages to knock one. O-Senpai will do some more damage as well, and that's going to be the end of that fight. That was as easy as you could possibly like, and that's Era Eternity who fall.
Era Eternity are in 15th place. They're not going to have a chance to try and make their way up the leaderboard, as they are wiped very comfortably, it was in the end, despite some arc stars and defensive arc stars that came out. Oxygen also in a little bit of trouble, having to just back off and reassess the situation, maybe pop a bat or two. So it was also good news Premier being eliminated for the likes of Renegades and Estral. They're still on the search of trying to get top 3. They're certainly not out of reach, even though we're talking about NRG as the main focus there. There are other teams who could still push up into that top 3 if NRG were to be wiped a little bit earlier here.
With that KP, they've managed to find themselves somewhere to play here, unlucky, inside of that next zone as well. I should say the next zone, zone 4. As we see the beacon information, they do get scanned on their way forward here. So Castellos is going to pop the Bloodhound ulti here. He's going to take some damage, and maybe lucky he did to have that increased speed to move forward. The gold armor is certainly going to help him out here to get back to full health. His teammates are really struggling, though, in this fight. It looks like Built by Gamers have decided they want to get involved with this one. They see the opportunity to push. The PKs are going to be hitting once more. Wicked doing some big damage, but who's going to come out on top here? Sync flies in and manages to clean up the fight, and he will get the res. Now be Built by Gamers who win the fight initially, but the missile swarm might just be enough as the third party is now entering, and that's going to be Complexity saying, good evening everybody, we'll have those KP.
Yeah, Complexity just dropping the Nox gas, and that was enough to get the final kill, but Monsoon's been knocked. Davis wave from the distance, and now senior servers are looking to try and be a real thorn in the side of Complexity here. Complexity are desperately going to try and get the res, but it's not going to happen when Reptar also gets beamed out of the sky. But Senior Service will not want to push on this one just yet.
But there's a
or
team
will they?
There's a team moving up on the ramp here, and it's NRG. And like you mentioned, Senior Service, they come in for the third play, but they're just a few seconds too late. And now NRG, having picked up some KP onto Complexity down, which is huge in the complex of the standings, might have even more opportunity for KP here.
Yeah, so NRG already seeing Premier wiped, now might be able to have the chance of wiping Complexity, which they do. Complexity are down and out. So NRG really with a massive chance to take second place overall here. We think first is pretty much unreachable, so we won't even talk about it, but they definitely can take second. They were 6 of Premier, 7 short of Complexity. All they have to do is get to the end game here, and they will secure themselves second place. But there are a few teams close behind them that could make it a nuisance, from the likes of Renegades, the likes of Astral Esports. They could also pip NRG here if NRG kind of take their foot off the pedal a little bit and they don't push for those extra KP, don't push for those extra placement points.
Well, look at Sentinels right now. I think they're waiting for a 3-2-1 opportunity. A few shots are going to be exchanged from distance, though, which might disrupt that idea. As Lou faces up there to make sure his teammates can just back up for a few seconds, using that extra HP on the gun shield to just hold their ground for now. But they're in a really good spot here, Sentinels, pretty much center zone. As we see the map overhead and where some teams are still rotating their way in. That yellow team in the northwestern side of things on the bridge, that is going to be NRG. They're just kind of trying to hold out that team to the north of them at the moment. But they've got teams either side of them at the moment, so not as easy a rotation here for NRG maybe as they would have wanted. But they do have the KP, like you mentioned, and their closest rivals outside of Sentinels have been eliminated.
We've also not seen a team in North America get 3 wins in a Pro League week yet. So that's another record that Sentinels could potentially break here, and maybe something they're going for alongside those 100 points. And it would put them in a really good footing, like moving towards potential match point when we go into playoffs and we go into LANs. Like having those statistics behind you and having that confidence that you can win multiple end games and multiple zones really would be an amazing thing to push forward. But right now, as you say, center circle, they can be patient, they can watch on, they can look at the lay of the land, and they can just decide what they want to do when the situation approaches.
Yeah, one of the best spots on the map. It's as simple as that. They do have to hold out these teams which might be camping in Overlook at the moment, but the way the Sentinels play, if any kind of fighting breaks out behind them, you know they're going to be hungry for the third party. As I said, they're probably as keen to put 100 points on the board and really send out a message to the rest of the Apex Legends Global Series across the globe, not just in North America, that they are the team to beat at the moment. But Renegades are kind of inching their way in towards zone as well. They have their backs clear, which is always rule one when you're getting into these kind of positions, but can they force their way into an even better one? Some Skynades going out, and that's going to be towards Sentinels.
I'm glad we're focusing Renegades a little bit here, because they're another team who are definitely within the question of finishing top 3, even potentially top 2. Now we've seen both Premier and Complexity wiped. Renegades were 10 points short of Complexity, 9 points of Premier. GG. They've got a crack here. Are they going to push up on it? Doesn't look like they are. They have the Ash Ultimate if they want to. They can TP on teams and get aggressive, but for now, they're in a position where they can just hold because there's so much utility being thrown at them.
The difficulty here is, yes, Noble took damage, and yes, Noble may have been pushable, but with a team underneath, there was always going to be the third-party opportunities for them just to hit the zip line and jump up and really end the game of Renegades. So a risk-reward decision being made, and the call was made that the risk was not worth the reward. However, if they can pick them up without giving away too much damage, then it might be a little bit more of a pushable fight for them. Now they're committing to it, Renegades. Pow Pow's taking some damage himself, but here comes the team from below as well, and this is what I was worried about here. Noble doing a good job to hold, but are the team below going to hear the noise? Are they going to move in? Renegades managed to pick up 2, and now it's a 1v1 at the top of the zip line. The Wraith is flesh, but the knockdown shields are being super effective here. Renegades come out, and look at that. It's the team from below with a defensive bombardment as Lazarus now have a look in the distance. And Sentinels, once again, just kings of the castle, looking for any KP on the edges of zone.
That's a shame for Renegades. That ruins their chances of pushing for a top 3. So Complexity and Premier GG will be delighted watching in the wings, knowing that they still will at least hold on to probably a top 5 spot minimum, if not even top 4, top 3, potentially, depending on what happens with NRG here. But Sentinels still kings of the castle, and Rocker has actually just gone down elsewhere to RKN, so Torrent are being a nuisance.
Sentinels gets the kill, though!
They get the finish, and that will be a KP going towards Torrent, of course, but it does mean that that is going to be one member of NRG knocked and out.
Xenox then looking to scrape around the edges of this zone, and they've got their backs clear. And this is looking like another really solid performance here from Sentinels. Estral Esports, I need to give a little bit of a shout out to these guys, though. What a performance it's been from these gentlemen. Consistently, not just in this group, but they have been in end zones more often than not. Really consistent team here. As Jalapin has a few players in his sightlines now, with the wingman just trying to zone out that team. But Senior Service as well, they've been pretty impressive today, Dan. Been involved in some decent end games. You heard it from the comms from NRG saying the Senior Service seem to keep an eye on. They've been playing pretty well, and up on that tower, they might have an opportunity to really disrupt things here as Sentinels now make their move in as well. They're inside the zone. They're creeping up on these kills as well. Or I should say this fight, and looking to turn it into kills.
Sweet is the last remaining player of NRG. 10 squads left. He needs to do some work. Needs to push himself into the top 5 to give them a chance of overtaking the likes of Premier GG and Complexity. Estral, that we were focusing on, were 14 points short of second place, so there is still a chance they could push their way up if they can have a big finish, win this game, and have a couple of KP, as NRG's Sweet is still the last remaining player, but he's being chased, but he will hold the portal for now. If NRG go down here, it might ruin their chance of getting top 2.
A lot of pressure on the shoulders of Sweet. The one good thing is, in 5 seconds time, he will have the ability to jump back into the void, so he can survive for a few more moments if the shots do come in. He has the cover from the team above, though, so this is one of the best positions you can possibly be as a rat. As now we see in the kill feed, Torrent, RKN manages to get One knock onto a player from Lazarus. Senior Service just tanking a little bit of damage from the defensive bombardment. Sweet managing to just about jump into the void here, but he's going to run around this corner. I'm pretty sure the Estral Esports might be aware of it, but look at this. Somehow Sweet has managed to escape for now. Can he get the battery off without showing any presence? He does for now, but now he can't jump into the void, and Sweet is just jumping around corners and doing desperate things to survive.
Just needs to get into the top 8 for one extra placement point and then edge towards maybe a top 5, but it seems every corner he turns, there's just another team waiting there, but that's one more team being knocked out. Ghost go down. It's top 8 secured for NRG. Is there any more placements that Sweet can gain just by being a little rat here, a little sneaky beaver every single time that he heals up? He'll give away an audio cue to those teams, but he's still just about surviving.
Sentinels picked up some KP as well in the background while all of this was going on. Estral Esports still just crouching under this building, playing the low ground. They've got a team above them for now, but Sentinels got to be careful here. 8 squads remaining now. And only Xenox alive. Defensive bombardment coming down as well. He's going to do a little bit of damage. There's a bubble on the edge here, and this is going to be very, very difficult to survive. Xenox can't do it. Cross survives for now, but a 3v1 inside of that building is going to spend the end here for Sentinels as they finally go down. We won't see the 100-point mark being broken this time around.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they would have been able to achieve the 100. Definitely not enough KP by them. But it does mean it gives the chance for Estral Esports and still NRG, who are alive, to pick up some serious places here. Senior Service down to just 2, 7 squads remaining. Sweet is still somewhere lurking, and there he is, somehow still alive. But he is the furthest point away from the circle. He's very much hovering on the edge right now. But we're down to 6. Every single time a team is knocked away now, it's more placement points secured for Sweet.
Oh, he jumps into the void, and even with Legacy MX coming up behind him, Sweet is still surviving for now. Keep your eyes on that kill feed to see if he is eliminated, but it doesn't look like at the moment anyone is focusing on him. So with 6 squads remaining, Sweet still doing some god work as the rat. Another battery going to be popped for him. You have to wonder what the med situation is going to be like for him right now. Can't jump into the void for another 1 second. If he can survive, he might be able to do so. Can he hit the Q? Can he survive for now? Or is he just going to wait a few more seconds, trying to bait these two teams into fighting each other? And somehow, Sweet's still alive with 6 squads remaining, but it's looking like the end. 1 HP. NRG still surviving. How are you doing this, Sweet?
There's a defensive bombardment coming as well. Just needs to get this med off. There's knocks going down. If he can get top 5, this could be huge. He's even got a Phoenix kit as well. And look at these knocks. Estral Esports have lost 1. This could be massive for NRG. This could be the difference between 4th place and top 2.
And look at this, he's found a place away from the action as well. Oxygen now involved in a fight. We're going to see a top 4 finish now for NRG. That's massive, but Oxygen, I think they've located Sweet's location here. They're going to try and move up on him. Sweet's still alive for now, though. He's going to jump into the void once more. 3 squads remaining. This is magic coming in from Sweet. The problem for him is a lack of meds now. He's going to run late into zone. He might be able to get top 2 if he can get this knock as well, but finally he will fall to the Nox gas as we see Torrent come in, call themselves champion of our final game of the day. A great result for Torrent, but NRG fans rejoice because Sweet just pulled off a miracle.
I think Sweet might have just pushed NRG from 4th place to 2nd place with that ratting ability. He guaranteed at least 7 points from placement. That pushes them to a minimum the same as Complexity from before that game. It's all going to come down to KP. There was a few there. I'd imagine he might have done enough. But for Torrent, they pushed themselves up, I would think, to top 5 if they were able to get some big KP here. Let's have a look. Woo! 24 for Torrent. They go up to 47 points total, which would actually match the team in 3rd place right now. So they can push themselves up into top 4 here, depending on KP elsewhere. For NRG, though, those are some big 8 points. Massive game from Sweet.
Certainly was indeed, and a lot of fun to watch as well, not just for NRG fans, but for everybody who's a fan of survivability in the last moments as a Wraith. Torrent, though, making that team change coming into this week and starting to see the fruits of their labor as well. Knocked the new addition to the lineup, 12 kills for them, as well as the 12 for placement points, 24 in total. At the other end of the table, though, Complexity and Renegades not having the best of final games. And on the other side of things, Sentinels still managing to pick up 5 KP, but an 8th place finish for them.
But good news for Complexity, those 2 kills they got, the 3 points they've been able to pick up, that will be enough to put them in 2nd place, just ahead of NRG. But NRG do leapfrog Premier, which was their main target there, with those placement points that they gained in those final bits. But, I mean, what a performance it was from Torrent. They're going to be delighted with that. The amount of damage that they were outputting, that last circle was nuts. I think every team at one point was looking at Sweet and saying, hey, here's some free KP. Wait, it's gone. Where did he go? Forget it. Let's look at the other teams. And Sweet was just dancing and doing his best impression of Michael Jackson with a little bit of a moonwalk at one point. But ultimately, Torrent will be delighted with that one.
Hey, look at those stats, how balanced it is as well of a team performance coming in from Torrent. 4 kills for all players, all of them over 1.2k damage as well, and all of them assisting each other in their way to that win. So Torrent, really good signs for them moving forward to next week with the team change coming in. But, I mean, the story today, though, Dan, it's the same as the last time we saw these 2 groups go up against each other. It is all about Sentinels. Though they've just been dominant, and some of the games we saw from them, they've just looked a different class to the rest of the lobby.
Yeah, Sentinels just looked like a team that weren't afraid of anyone today, and even though they kind of fizzled out in that last game, I think they were pushing for that 100, right? They wanted to go out with a bang, but it just didn't really work out. But it doesn't matter. We can't take away from the performance they had. They only got the 2 wins. They weren't able to get that elusive 3 that we're still searching for, but they did enough to be, you know, ultimately the best team in this lobby by an incredible margin. 2nd place was far closer, and I think that says a lot for how well Sentinels have performed, but they need to do that same thing when they are amongst some of the other big hitters in North America.
We'll welcome Kate back into the conversation now. Unfortunately, Kate, I can't give you the news. The records have been broken, and we're going to see 100 points for the first time, but Sentinels, still absolutely unbelievable.
Headline, of course, for sure. And let me just be the first to say GG to Mr. Dan Gaskin. I will say as well, one of the reasons that it was a tough decision between Sentinels and NRG for me in terms of this production was, you know, we looked at NRG having so much momentum coming in with a couple of different top placements in a couple of different tournaments that weren't the ALGS. So thought that momentum was going to bring it in, and it did. But obviously, as we're taking a look at these highlights here from our final game, that was not enough to overtake the domination, capital D, uppercase, bolded, italicized domination of Sentinels. Now, real quick, I want you to, as we get through here, and I think we're going to, I'm sure, come back to Sweet's absolute incredible rat strat. And while we do, I want to know, real quick, Onset, let's start with you. I want to know, walk me through exactly how Sweet did what he did, because it was an absolute masterclass.
Yeah, you're asking
rat strats.
You're asking me to explain the unexplainable. To be honest with you, it's like asking, you know, how does thunder happen? You know, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. You got to be a special kind of player. Is the answer? The way that he was managing to find places to play away from the action is the key to being a successful rat, though. Keeping your presence as low as possible in those final moments is absolutely vital. And of course, that doesn't happen if Sweet isn't playing Wraith. The ability to jump into the void and hold on to your life for long enough for that ability to come back up, it's vital. And then just, as I say, positioning yourself away from fights, waiting for other action to engage before you try and move to somewhere else. It was just a masterclass. It's difficult to explain. You just got to play a lot of Wraith, and you got to be involved in a lot of very good lobbies.
There it is indeed. That's it. There, perfect. Done. Okay, cool. Moving on. Well, let's talk about this, Dan Gaskin, because we're going to take a look at our leaderboards here in just moments. But I want to talk about honorable mention teams. We've been talking about Sentinels. NRG's been doing some incredible things. Complexity, to be sure. Let's talk real quick as we look at these leaderboards here. And it's just so, yeah, well done, Sentinels. GG, fantastic. But let's talk about those honorable mention teams. We heard you guys mention Senior Service, Astral Esports, these teams that came in, day out here in these tournaments and have found themselves to be consistently towards that late game.
Yeah, Torrent as well, another team who kind of went under the radar for a little bit, but have made that team change, and now they are looking on top of the world. I mean, they were robbed of top 3 placement. If Sweet hadn't have done that rat strategy, Torrent would have got top 3. Sweet doing that pushed them into that top 3, kept them above Premier and Torrent. Complexity did just enough to get to 2nd place. Premier, though, dropping from 3rd place to 5th place is going to be a real painful one for them. It will be tiebreakers, I assume, on the 47 points with them 4th and 5th. But other teams that impressed me, yeah, definitely Estral Esports. I think that the consistency that Estral found, where we were constantly seeing them in the end game, was fantastic. And if they can keep finding that form going through the next couple of weeks, then maybe they can put themselves within a chance of playoffs.
I just want to quickly say, by the way, it's really cool to see Torrent and Premier GG next to each other. Hill obviously leaving Torrent, and they're both on tied points. So everyone's happy, right? Everyone's a winner.
That's right. When we all play, we all win. It's fantastic. I absolutely agree. And let's take a look at the season standings here. Now, of course, this is just B versus C. So remember, coming up Sunday, we have our A versus D groups for North America. But let's take a look. Gaskin, we're looking at this season standings. It's hard to even, like obviously Sentinels very much on top, but this is also a little bit skewed, obviously, because this is B versus C. We haven't even seen A versus D yet.
Yeah, you can see who's played 4, who's played 3, but still a really good chance tomorrow for Sunday for Esports Arena to catch up and overtake Sentinels if they have a week like they have had previously. But I think the important factor is Sentinels put themselves up to number 1. NRG and Complexity still ensure that they are there or thereabouts within a question of being within the top. But it's all about that kind of top 10, right? That's what everyone wants to be in. They don't want to be in the bottom 10. They don't want to be in those relegation spots. So you want to ensure you put yourselves as high as possible. And then these are the teams, you know, in the red. This is where you really don't want to be. This is where the relegation starts to happen. I'm expecting to see a few of these teams turn things around tomorrow. But for the most part, I'm impressed what I saw. Estral Esports, you can see in 29th place, they got some vital points today. Without those, then they would be very much in those red spots.
Absolutely, and we're playing that red light, green light game here, and of course we all want to be in the green. But as we know, the red, while definitely a sing for your supper, sort of got to make yourself go through those qualifiers, you can still make it through. You just, you know, there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of time and grinding to go through. You know, speaking of grinding, yeah, okay, I'll go there. Let's talk a little bit about the electricity that was generated from not just these teams, but all of the little components and circuits as a part of those. And for that, we're going to start our Monster MVP segment. Okay, Dan, we had a number of teammates, a number of squad mates, a number of these players pop off today, including some that just popped off even in this last match. Talk to me about who has your eye for this MVP discussion.
I was going to go with a player from Sentinels, but Mark stole that from me, so I guess I'll have to go for, you know, second best. Reptar from Complexity put in an insane amount of damage, and he was really the anchor for the team time and time again. I think statistically it was about triple the damage of the rest of his 2 teammates, which is a very impressive thing. I know sometimes, yeah, it's going to be because you've got those snipers, you've got charge rifles and everything, but he was shredding in some of these games. He was making sure his team, whenever they pushed into someone, they always had the ability to just finish those players off comfortably because he had done that initial damage. I think that's very important to have players like that on the team who are always going to be hitting those shots from a distance.
Absolutely. On set, who do you got?
I get to choose a Sentinels player, and it's only right that we're discussing Sentinels after today's action. Dan, you won the predictions, we get it. But I mean, I want to say the man that I need to pick and talk about is Senox. And although everybody loved Retzi, although everybody misses Retzi, right, on this Sentinels lineup, it has just been the best thing I think to happen to Senox, because he stepped into, you know, that ability player, that movement player, playing on Ash. It has been Wraith, it has been Octane, and he's just been frying, man. I don't know what else to say. Every single time that we're seeing him in gunfights, whether it's with a Peacekeeper, whether it's with a Flatline, or whether it's with a Kraber, he's just making things happen. And this game in particular, where he got to that end zone and almost managed to win it with the Ash ultimate, just surviving and jumping back into the fight, was nuts. But the PK has been almost synonymous with him today, and I can't wait to watch Senox just keep doing what he's doing. He's been on fire.
Absolutely, and I do love that you also mentioned bringing in that new legend, bringing in Ash here in Pro Play under the hot lights of Pro Play. Impressive, to be sure. Well, that has been our Monster MVP segment. Oh man, I'll tell you what, there's been some incredible gameplay. It has been up, down, side to side, even with Sentinels coming in and saying, no, we'll take care of the lobby, it's fine. You still have such an interesting lobby, and I feel like, Onset, is this a lobby that maybe we could look at as sort of a training ground? If you can make it past Sentinels, you can make it just about anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone beats Sentinels at the moment in a bubble fight, I'm taking notice because they don't lose them. It just really is that simple. They don't lose it to third parties, even when they're weak. It's pretty crazy to watch. We saw that today. If you manage to take out NRG in a, when they're the third party coming into a bubble fight, what else do you have to say? But it's about consistency. When they get into the lobby, like Dan mentioned in that last game, when there's a few more established teams, a few more experienced teams in the lobby, for Sentinels to continue that kind of form. That's the question for them moving forward, because last time we saw them in this group, they did the same thing. Then they fell off in the following week. So Sentinels need to just make sure that they're on their P's and Q's when we get into the next week of Pro League action.
Well, to find out if they're on their P's and Q's, let's go to one of the men themselves, and that would be T-Squared with Sentinels. We've got Hal, I believe, on set, right? Nope, Lou. Sorry about that. That's my bad. We got Lou from Sentinels showcasing what he has done over the last 6 games, which is domination. Tom, over to you.
Lou, how are you feeling, my guy? Big performance today. I mean, you guys are going for 100 points, just dominating the lobby. But hey, what happened in the final game, bro? You get knocked, you throw for your team. I thought you guys were going for the record.
All right, man. Yeah, I mean, I just, dude, that Loba team, they just get every single gun. They just do. I mean, I think they had double Spitfire up in the tower. So when we go out there, like, I'm just instantly shredded. I just instantly died. So, I mean, yeah, through the last game, unfortunately, couldn't drop 100 points. But, I mean, as far as it went for the rest of the day, we played pretty perfectly.
You guys rocked out, man. It was awesome to watch. Now, we did a couple of listen-ins with your squad. Communication is definitely on point, but I want to talk about how important communication is for your team, but what are some other things that have been separating Sentinels away from the pack?
I mean, I think I could just take notice of the fact that people are just scared to fight us, and it feels like more a mental game than anything. And, we try and, like, normally we would roam edge and try and fight as many people as we can, but we played a little bit differently this week. I noticed that there wasn't many people playing on edge, and a lot of people were trying to play center circle. And so in order to adapt to that, like, that's been our main problem, is inconsistency. So, like, I want to stay consistent, and we try to play circle, and we got a couple gifted zones and played off of that and was able to win a couple games in a row. So, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that. One of those was zone number 3, Lava Siphon Zone. You guys land over there. I feel like the old Sentinels, when it was Sorting Factory and obviously a different lineup, would have played that differently. Back when I was competing, Sentinels was notorious for sitting on top of Sorting Factory and taking every fight that would really come their way, gatekeeping a lot of teams. This time, you guys turtle over towards where the end zone is going to be. You pick up your kill points along the way. Is that a testament to Sentinels kind of evolving, or is that a mix of the meta, or maybe a little bit of both?
Honestly, we didn't even get beacon on the first circle, so we couldn't, like, completely tell where that was at. But that building in specific is where we like to play when we want to say that, like, that building is good for most circles that would pull around sorting. And that circle could have even darted back to Harvester, but the fact that it came into sorting, that building is just the best all around for all those zones. So we just like to play those zones, like, a little bit more safe, because especially when we're up so many points, it makes no sense to leave a circle to kill people on edge when we could just have a free game sitting at our feet.
You were pretty fortunate, sitting there from a viewer's perspective, seeing where that zone was going to be. Didn't have any idea that you didn't have a scan over there. It seemed like you guys just absolutely knew. So that was really fun to watch. I want to talk a little bit about the meta, because Ashe isn't that utilized right now compared to, say, Wraith or a couple of other legends. And then you also are rocking Bloodhound, which is a little bit unorthodox. 0 Bloodhounds in the EMEA region. I think it was played maybe by 1 team overall. What are your thoughts on Ashe? How is that working for your team, and what do you think about the current meta of Apex?
It's interesting you asked that, because our first game we played Wraith, and we felt that Wraith would be better for our aggressive playstyle. But like I said, we started to notice people were just gathering around center circle, especially when you have zones like Skyhook, where there's so many like spots in Skyhook that you can take. So there's going to be, all the teams are going to be in Skyhook. There's no one on edge because there's just so many buildings, and each building has so many floors. So we noticed that Wraith wasn't working because we couldn't play aggressive like we wanted to. Second game, we switched up and we got back on Ashe instead of Wraith. And that the only reason why we won the second game is because of Ashe. We were able to take that, like, high ground pole and thermal. And because of that, if we had Wraith, we would have gotten maybe top 5 that game. So Ashe is, like, some zones Ashe is just crucial, but other zones, having a Wraith or having a Octane, like, can just be better. But I mean, it's just super situational. And that's, like, I mean, that's Apex as a whole. Just use whatever character you can during every situation.
It's so rare to see someone switch up their composition while they're already doing so well. That was something that you guys were able to do. Last question, I want to give you an opportunity to give any shout-outs you want to say hi to.
I just want to say hi to all the people who just continuously support me for like, even though like taking breaks and stuff, and just hi to all the people who support Sentinels as a team, because I know a lot of people don't support us. A lot of people hate us. A lot of people love us, but the people who do, I just want to thank you guys. Thank you to everybody. It was an awesome day. Thanks for watching us.
Hey, they hate us because they ain't us, Lou. I love you guys. I think you guys completely rocked out today. Definitely made me a Sentinels fan. I'm going to be voting for you guys next time I see you guys in my talent predictions, but an absolute pleasure. We're going to toss this one back on over to the desk. Kate, Dan, on set, take it away.
Well, I'll tell you what. Lou has the kind of attitude that I would not want to come up against in a lobby. My gosh. That is brilliant, and I love what he said about that. I love what he said about the zone pulls and the different team comps and playing Ash and what the meta looks like here today. Onset, anything that kind of struck you from what we just heard from Lou?
One thing I love about Lou, whenever you speak to Lou, is there's two Lous, in my opinion. There's the Lou who's out of game, right? And he's a super nice guy, like one of the most relatable people you'll speak to. Always got time for his stream, any viewers, always answering questions. You know, as I say, super impressionable, nice human. He's an animal in game, though. He is so competitive when you get in game, and it's a different human. And I think you have to kind of take in-game Lou away from what is real Lou and kind of understand there's a little bit of a difference between the two. But you need that to be the best in any video game. I don't care what anyone says. You can't win tournaments by smiling and waving at everyone. You have to be angry in game. You have to be aggressive, and you have to think about all you want to do is pick up wins. And I love that about Lou, how he can separate the two, but he's an animal in game. The man's a beast. I'm a Lou fan. Can you tell?
Taking care of business. Lou the Beast. I'm here for it. Let's get t-shirts made for sure. Well, you know what? This next thing, I'm gonna actually throw it over to Gaskin because this segment is called Gaskin Wins and the Rest of Us Lose.
It's about time. I'm going to be honest. My talent
the rest of us came second, Kate. The rest of us came second.
You all came joint second. But I don't know if we're seeing a tally of, all of the talent predictions added up over the weeks, but I hope so, because that is quite a big margin that we've seen between us and me and you four, if you know what I'm saying. But I just went for Sentinels purely for the fact that the domination they had in week one, how comfortable they were when these two groups faced against each other. I thought it was going to happen. It did happen again, and I think Sentinels will be delighted. They just need to carry that form now into next week, which is where they had struggled in the previous week, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, and I will say I love what Lou said about the mentality of people think that they are unstoppable, and they are, and it's just an interesting dichotomy, that nice little circular thinking thought pattern, which is fantastic. Well, speaking of circular, don't worry, because ALGS is coming right back around. We got EMEA, our A versus D groups. They are coming up this Sunday, as you can see the time on your screen. That's November the 21st, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT. Be there or be T-squared. Just kidding. He'll probably be around as well. So at any rate, we want to make sure that you also consider following us on all of our social handles. We love it if you did, because we're those people who are all over the social. They're doing some incredible stuff over on our Twitter channel, our Twitter page, Play Apex Esports, our Twitch channel, Play Apex, and of course YouTube, Play Apex Esports. We're everywhere you want to be, and that's exactly what we are gonna do. Well, that's all we got for today. GG's all around. Fantastic job by Sentinels and the rest of our lobby. And so for the cast, the crew, and for all of you watching, thanks so much for being here. And until next time, this is the ALGS Pro League.